GF option is to get
Gluten-free?
You're on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6 o'clock. It's Tuesday, November 19th. We're at the regular select board meeting on the third floor meeting room. First order of business is to call the meeting to order. Are there any additions to the agenda for routine maintenance, administrative matters, and pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting? Yeah?
Yes, sir. I have one, which is to please add item 3B, which is the Rockingham fire, to the budget discussion. They were inadvertently left off of the list.
Anyone else? Hearing none, so moved. Approve the minutes of November 5th, 2019. Need a motion?
Make the motion to approve the minutes of the November 5th, 2019 select board meeting.
Second.
second.
Motion made and seconded. Any additions, corrections, deletions? Hearing none. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Public comment on items not on the agenda, 3 minutes a person. Seeing none, we'll move on to the manager's report.
Okay, I have a few things. First thing and the most important thing is we're having a community visit that we've been talking about with the Vermont Council on Rural Development. It's on December 4th. All residents, property owners, and non-property owners are encouraged to attend. You'll get a flyer like this in the mail. You hopefully will see the flyer many times. All sorts of organizations are involved in this. There's going to be 9 sessions. As you can see, you don't need to go to everything. Free dinner. If you're watching this, you care about the town, so you really should be here. There will be subsequent meetings, but this is the only one that will deal with any topics. After this, the topics are going to be narrowed down. So please make a point to be there. Rental property owners meeting. We're going to have it tomorrow, November 20th. We heard about that previously at noon. We sent invitations, but if you are interested in attending, you don't need to RSVP. You can just come here. It'll be in this room, 3rd floor, town hall. Bring your own lunch. We'll have drinks and snacks, and we're going to have a presentation by attorneys from the Attorney General, who will be talking specifically about landlords' responsibilities and also proper leases, and how to reduce the likelihood of illegal drug use.
Is that the AGs or the U.S. attorney? Actually, U.S. attorney is
It's the U.S. Attorney, right?
U.S. Attorney Vermont.
Right. It's different than the Attorney General's office.
Okay, sorry, thank you. But folks who are well versed in this, and I have a sample, I have copies of the sample leases, and you have one in front of you. We have, as I think I said before, we have a lot of property owners who are kind of part-time landlords, and it's just really important that they learn how to protect themselves and their property, and the sample lease is a great way to start. The Hetty Green Motel property, the court did authorize our attorney, the administration, to sell both the land and the vehicle. Volunteers are clearing brush and debris from that property, so you'll see some progress soon. And the Christmas shop in the north storefront of Town Hall, that will be opening the Friday after Thanksgiving, and he's already setting up. You may have seen that. And that's all I have.
Before we get into the agenda, I would like one more item that if you intend to speak, please give your name for the record so the secretary can have who speaks. Move on to the agenda is the 2020 census presentation. Thomas Simmons.
That would be me. Hi, my name is Tom Simmons. I live in Chester. I'm a partnership specialist with the US Census Bureau for Windham and Windsor County, Vermont, and Sullivan County, New Hampshire. So I have a big territory to cover, and my job basically is to make brief presentations before organizations and town boards so they understand what's happening with the rollout of the decennial census in 2020. We do the census every 10 years. It's required by the Constitution. Most people are familiar with the census because it determines reapportionment and how many congressmen a state gets, and that's not likely to change in Vermont. but it also determines how many seats and how they're divvied up in Montpelier as well. More important, though, I think, specifically to Rockingham and to Bellows Falls, is that over $800 billion every year in federal funds is allocated to states for specific programs based on the numbers the census returns. And they're locked in for 10 years. So, funds that people in your community may rely on, such as actually opioid addiction rehabilitation, Meals on Wheels, Medicare Part B, women, infant, children, school lunch programs, special education programs, housing rehabilitation funds, block grants that your town applies for are all based on the census numbers. So the critical thing is we want to get the right numbers for Rockingham and make sure that every single person who exists in the community is counted. The rollout will start in March. That's when things really get going. For the first time in history, the census can be done online. Now that means in mid-March, March 12th to be specific, every household in Rockingham will get the first of up to 4 mailings from the Census Bureau. And the first one is going to be an invitation to do it online. The second one will be a, hey, we haven't heard from you yet, do it online or give us a call. The third one will be, hey, what's the matter you? We haven't heard from you yet. The fourth one, which comes out the first week of April, will be the actual form itself. So the first thing to know is that while we're encouraging internet response, there will be certain segments of the population that will be reluctant to do that. Either because they don't have internet, or they don't want to put their name and address and birthday over the internet, or for whatever reason. But they will get that form eventually, as long as they don't just keep throwing things out because it comes from the census and says, dear occupant, because these are addressed to residences and not to people, because we don't know who's living where. There are certain people groups that are traditionally undercounted across the country. The largest of those is the 0 to 5 age range. We know we undercounted by 1 million young children 10 years ago. That's got significant effects on some of the programs that I just mentioned, such as the school lunch program and any funds the school district might get for special education. We also know that single seniors respond at much lower rates than the general population. Low-income people, renters, and then there's just generally a general population that's tired of filling out surveys, or why does the government need this information from me, and to kind of toss it away. So what we need to do is really partner. The census is a federal operation, but it doesn't happen unless the towns and the local people embrace it and talk about it and encourage it. And I'd like to give you, I'm going to give you each a folder, and I'm going to ask you to open it to the, it's kind of like a spreadsheet page. Because what I did was I picked out specific statistics for Rockingham that are specifically pertinent to this conversation. And it's a sheet that looks like this with yellow highlights. That second column says ACS self-response. That is an indication of what the response rate has been from Rockingham residents, not to the census, but to other surveys the census has conducted over the last 10 years. Housing survey, and economic surveys, and things like that. You'll notice that Rockingham, which is 2 different census tracts, so I have them separated, responds at about 60%. When what we usually look for is 70 to 80%. So we start from the position that, for whatever reason, Rockingham residents are not responding in as great numbers as the rest of the population of Windham County. In terms of your under 5 population, which we know is a problem, you've got probably twice the proportion of children under age 5 than in almost all the surrounding towns. Sometimes they're underreported because of complex living arrangements. I'm with mom half the time and dad half the time, or I'm with grandma and grandpa. But for whatever reason, that makes up a large number of your population. You want to make sure they're counted. In terms of the percent below the poverty rate, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. The poverty rate is higher in Rockingham than its surrounding towns. And the number of rental units is much higher than in surrounding towns. So when you look at all of those figures, what you've got are the red flags that we have, pulled out nationally are all present here in Rockingham, or most of them are present here in Rockingham. That means we need to overcome it. We need not to just send census forms out in the mail and hope people respond. We need to be proactive in making sure that this community counts. I've met with Wendy. We've worked out a situation where we now have PSAs running in the movie theater before all the movies about the importance of the census. I have met with the Continuum Care Committee, which is a consortium of almost a dozen social service providers in the Bellows Falls, Rockingham area to make sure that the group homes and transient homes are all counted properly. I met with the Manual Church for the same thing. I have a meeting with the police department to discuss the rollout and law enforcement issues. I'm meeting with the Senior Center on December 18th. I'm addressing their lunch. So I'm saying all this because you're one of about 80 communities that I'm responsible for getting enthusiasm going. But you're one of 80 that I'm working with. No one knows this community like you do. No one is a trusted voice in this community like you are. Who knows me? No one. And I can go and talk about the importance of this till I'm blue in the face. They need to hear it from you. The town needs to generate enthusiasm. Every town does that its own way. I've had one town that has said to me, the Rotary is king here. Let me get you a speaking opportunity with the Rotary. Okay, great. I've worked with one town that has had 2 property owners who own over 300 rental units. And basically they opened the door for me and introduced me to them so that those property owners can send out the importance of renters responding to the census in all of the monthly rent statements that they send out. So there's a lot of different ways to make sure the community knows something is important, but you know what works best in your town. So with that, what I'm asking is that you think about those things, consider those things. What's going on in town? What would be a great way to get the word out? Is it something you should do, or is it something you can just open a door for me so I can come in and speak? I've got 2 towns. What worked really well is they actually had their select boards meeting filmed, and then they worked with their local cable company, local access cable company, to put this section, just my talk, on as a recurring PSA 8 times a week, constantly, so that people in the community turning on to the program could see the importance and why we need everyone to count in Bellows Falls. That is the extent of my presentation. I know you've got a lot of other things on your agenda tonight, but I am more than happy to answer questions from you or from the audience through you or anything else.
I think you should mention the jobs.
That's a really good idea. So one of the ways that works a lot more smoothly is if the people who are doing knocking on doors are from the local community, right? Because if people don't respond on the internet or don't respond when they get the form, we have to go out and knock on doors. We're hiring 9,000 people in Vermont alone. We're recruiting 9,000 people to serve as enumerators who will go door to door to people who have not responded, knock on the door, and get the information. It's a very short census. There's only 9 questions on it. It's nothing intrusive. Those jobs pay $17.50 an hour. They are completely flexible. You can work days, evenings, weekends, whatever works for you. And to be perfectly frank with you, these jobs start by February because you have to be trained, fingerprinted, background checked. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And we are only about 30% towards what we need to actually do the enumeration. If you get people in your community to apply for these jobs, then you've got a better chance of making sure that everyone who needs their door knocked on has their door knocked on. Plus, it's a lot better when someone can say, hey, Jane came to my door last night with the US Census, as opposed to some guy I never saw before came to my door and asked me my phone number. Is this legit? Because your town phones and your police phones will ring off the hook if people don't understand what's going on and when it's going on. So, thank you for that.
Sir?
Sir?
I'll say one thing.
Yes.
You experienced a little fun area with one of your census takers about the last time you did it. He drove us completely nuts. You told us that you just said there's no 9 questions. I bet he must come back 6 different times before we finally said, we're done. We're not answering any more questions. Because every time they came back, it was more and more personal information thereafter.
Well,
I mean, and
actually, that's a good question, and I get that a lot. One of the confusing things is that in between the 10-year decennial census, because we're talking about the federally mandated decennial census every 10 years, in between those years, there are other surveys that go out, including the American Community Survey, which I've heard has taken some people 3 hours to ask. And that's usually what they're referring to. This decennial census asks you, what's your name, what's your address, what's your phone number, your birthday and age, how many people live here, how are they related to you, what's your gender, what's your race. Goodbye, have a nice day. It's really that simple. Every single form will be exactly like that. Thank you.
time will tell. I'll say that.
No one's going to ask you how many toilets you have and what your roof is made out of, I promise. Sir?
How do they apply for these jobs? Did you mention that?
You just go on census.gov.
Okay.
If you want to be more technical, it's census.gov/jobs. But if you just go to census.gov, the first thing that'll come up is apply for a job. Okay, and the
Do
application
they need a
process.
valid driver's license?
Yes.
All those things?
Yes, you will need, you do need access to a car, because since you're not going to every door, you're only going to the ones where people have not responded.
Okay.
You may be driving, several blocks before you get to the next house. Yeah, you gotta be 18, citizen, no criminal arrest record, and access to a car. And we do pay from training on.
Sure. Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've all got my business cards in your folder. If you come up with any bright idea or any crazy idea, send me an email, all right? And I'll do it. I'll be census man. I'll do it.
Okay, moving on to the second item. This is the second reading and adoption, hopefully, of the nuisance blighted property, unsound or abandoned property ordinance. So I'll open it up. When do you want to leave this on?
Sure. The language is the same as you saw previously. The purpose of this ordinance, as we've talked about, is to address issues with structures and then some behavioral issues, which I think there's some folks here who want to speak to that. Right now, we have the town has really no good enforcement mechanism. The village has some enforcement, but it doesn't have the funds to follow through. So to explain a little bit, we prepared a flow chart. So if Jenny can put the flow chart on the screen, we just pass these out to you. And we have some copies up here if folks want to look at them. See if you might want to take a look later. So it looks a little complicated, but we'll work with the colors first. We start at the top left in the green area, and as Chuck pointed out when we were working on this, about 80% of his time is going to be focused in the green area, which is voluntary compliance. You'll recall that as the Planning Commission was going through the process of devising this, it was very important that there be as much as many chances for property owners to comply as possible before getting into enforcement. So it starts with a complaint, which means the safety officers are not driving around town looking for issues. It starts with a complaint. The officers would then visit a property and make a determination, and that's not a visit onto the property, it's a windshield survey, so it's from outside of the property, they won't trespass. And then they'll decide there whether either there's no obvious violation or no violation, or a possible violation. So if there's no violation, that's the top line. What they'll do is talk to the person who made the complaint and explain that there's no violation, and then the process is finished at that point. If there is a possible violation, then they contact the owner or the tenant to discuss the violation, and hopefully the process goes to the right where the discussion leads to voluntary compliance and the violations are resolved. So purple is the goal on the right-hand side. If the individual responsible does not choose to voluntarily comply, then it goes down into the yellow portion. So it goes to then a focused inspection, and that would be a scheduled inspection. The property owner would have plenty of time, plenty of notice in advance, and would be able to accompany the inspectors. So there would be a focused inspection, which means an inspection on the property itself, possibly in the property, in the house or structure if necessary, and just to see the situation. So then they would document. Most would go to the right, where they document the violation and prepare a report, and that's similar to the reports that you've seen for the YMCA building, where you say what's an issue with the building. If there's an emergency, which is the downward arrow, I don't know if Shannon can point to that or not. If there's an emergency, a safety emergency, you can go in that direction and you can take the health order process if you want. And that you are familiar with, because that's what we did with the Hetty Green Motel recently. If the property is not repaired, so if it doesn't go to the next purple, then it goes down to enforcement, which is the big red circle. Once you're in enforcement, then, or the way you get it to enforcement is that the safety officers issue a notice of violation. So that's a legal document that says you are being officially noticed with this problem. If the owner wants to appeal it, they appeal going down the bottom. It's kind of like a little detour. They go to the select board because it is a town ordinance. And the way it's written is the village trustees of whichever village the property is in. If it is in an incorporated village, then the trustees are advisory to that process. So they are included in the process. But the select board makes the decision. So it goes then to the right. If the select board affirms the violation order, then it goes back into the enforcement. There are three main ways of enforcement that we have. We have civil tickets, which we kind of have now, but we aren't that effective. We aren't using them that effectively. Then the second one, the middle one, which would be very effective, is that the town could actually enter the property with notice and lots of warnings ahead of time and resolve the violation. Whatever cost the town would incur, there would be liens on the property, but you do that as necessary. That's in certain circumstances, but the town would have that authority. So that's a major difference between now and after this ordinance. And then there are also daily fines imposed, and that's a way to get the property owner's attention because those fines accrue, and it's a good incentive to solve something sooner rather than later. Because right now there's not really an incentive to take care of a problem, because the property owner has an incentive to just wait it out. But with a daily fine accruing, that provides a really good incentive. So then, hopefully again, we end up in the purple, down to the right. There's a judicial remedy that we put in there that's part of the civil tickets process. There are other complications to this, but this is plenty complicated enough, I think. We just wanted to explain a little bit about how it works. And so the most important takeaways are voluntary is preferred. We have new methods of enforcement and there is an appeal process. So that's,
Questions from the board?
So someone, there's a violation, and it's a case of, say, someone on a very limited income, perhaps someone on Social Security. They're not gonna be able to start paying a daily fine. I mean, so how is this gonna work? If they say, look, I can't do this, I would really like to do this, I mean, there's no money available to help them, what's gonna
right,
happen in that case?
that's a great question, and we talked about that, because what we need to do is set up a fund. We have the money that was allocated by town meeting, it wasn't specifically for this purpose, but it was for housing. And we've talked about, other organizations are talking about finding funds to help folks who can't improve their property. The fine could be assessed and then forgiven. I mean, there are mechanisms, but they're outside of this. But when this ordinance was being developed, it was said many times that we need some sort of incentive. It's just not, there's no place for it in this ordinance. But Chuck, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think you handled that very well. I think there's going to be a fair amount of discretion with the safety officers. The garden variety is, the trash around me has accumulated to the point I cannot help myself anymore. And that's in the public remedy component that Wendy was sort of the architect behind. That allows us to just come in, take that trash, and then put them on a payment plan that gets them out of this predicament that they're in. So I think you're going to see a couple of different options rather than just find somebody who doesn't have the resources, who's stuck in this situation as it is. That's not going to be anybody's interest. It's compliance, it's not about fines.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of thinking the example of, what is it, 60% of the house is not painted or something. I mean, if you're 90 on a limited income, you are not going to invest any money in painting a house. So is that something you just say, okay, this is the situation, well, it's...
In that scenario, the person says, we have, here's the plan. This house has fallen in such disrepair that the neighbors have been complaining about it, it's caused an issue. The plan is I'm going to paint a side per year to try to get back on top of this. That plan is accepted and they're in compliance. Because remember, we've always talked about compliance having a multitude of options available to them.
It's a good an idea, but I see in some cases that's not going to be possible even.
This is an undiscovered country. This is a big step for us, and we're going to be learning as we go.
Right, but it is really important that we make sure that we can accommodate folks who can't afford to make the improvements, but are willing to make the improvements. And so we're looking for funding. There's also already there's existing funding through places like Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust that we can direct people to. And there's another couple of organizations, big ones and small ones, that are interested in providing funds. So that would go into the plan.
Another
It might
scenario
also-
I would like to explore is the town says this individual's not in compliance. What are some of the volunteer or Ron Lake can speak better to this, the resources that we have available through the prison system? What are some of the options that we can do? But they're not going to be able to access those opportunities unless there's an issue that the town has pointed out.
And one thing we might do, I'm glad you brought this up, is have those folks go through the appeal process, the first few that we get, to make sure that the select board is okay with the payments that we're proposing, or the financial arrangements that we're proposing. I think that would actually make sense.
And also for old barns and things in rural Rockingham that,
I think
Could
this
be
goes
an
to
issue
the
of
point
protect
of those old
outbuildings.
barns are cherished resources. This would depend on a complaint. I'm not going to be out looking for structures that I myself own a barn that's half cocked, so I'm not going to point that out. It's very typical. It's the things that are causing people, neighbors, stress. And when it rises to that level, that's when the public gets involved.
And it's not just stress, it's reduction in property value. So impacting the property value or safety, but it has to have an impact outside of its boundaries.
Under definitions, or actually blighted structure code, section F, it's to do with the drug visits. Can someone relate to us how that correlates to a blighted structure?
What page is this?
Page two.
Page 2.
Structure
Section
regulations
F.
for legal
It's a paragraph that was questioned at the village trustees meeting, and I think it needs to be discussed here at this point also, before we move forward with this.
Sure.
We talked about it in the office here, so I'd just like to see how, someone explain how it correlates to being part of a blighted structure ordinance, because that's a different area as far as I'm concerned. How does that relate to blighted structure? It doesn't have anything to do with the paint or anything else on the house or the repairs that are necessary. It's due to the fact that there's a drug issue perhaps going on. Maybe it detracts from the neighborhood because everybody knows it's there or suspects it's there. But I think we need to get an explanation for that before we either adopt this or just so everybody's on the same wavelength and understands what we're trying to accomplish with that issue in here. Because I know that everybody's taking different thoughts on this whole process. So, Chuck, you want to respond to that? I know we talked earlier about this.
I'm in agreement that you'll see within some categories, there's a few things that were brought into the mix that don't, they're not like, they're kind of grafted on, if you will. That had been repeatedly raised in meetings that we had, that blight or that type of atmosphere is also a use, that these buildings that become places, drug sanctuaries, that is a distress factor that those folks wanted included. So this would come up frequently in public process. It's not like quintessentially blight though, and you're correct when you mention that.
I know that you had mentioned that in talking with the police department that it is relegated to 3 times a month or 3 times in any 3-month period. So that the police department has said to you that it's not really going to amount to that many visits anyway.
The hope was to put it to the most egregious of, you'd have to be a very busy place to be visited by the police that often. This is not an individual that can be in trouble and making poor decisions and apprehended repeatedly. This is actually a property that can, engender that kind of activity. That would be unusual.
But it's written that some other reasons for calling in that same paragraph will not apply for other reasons listed, but in specific, 3 calls for 3 months for illegal drug activity. So they're not taking away from other calls, sketchy neighbor, smoke alarm, right? It has to be specific to 3 calls for illegal drug activity.
That's right. And the genesis for this was there was a property that there were so many people using drugs in there, it had become a sanctuary. We kept narrowing that definition because we were afraid we would catch somebody that had a heart condition. We were afraid to catch a domestic violence situation. We kept nicking away at it to just narrow it down to these drug sanctuaries. We know those buildings, all of us do. What is a remedy?
And having that in there does provide access for enforcement. That's one of the other main reasons it's in there to an extent, because we don't have it in there where there's no way we can go after anybody as it currently stands.
Yes. We're not going to be looking for drug houses. These are going to be based upon complaints that this place is impacting the neighborhood in a negative manner.
Anyone in the audience have any questions?
We do.
Speak right up.
Hi, thank you. My name is Laura Sherbaum. I'm a resident of Rockingham and Bellows Falls, and I'm the director of Greater Falls Connections, which is a substance use prevention organization focused primarily on youth substance use prevention. And we also, our main mission really is to provide education and awareness and bring best practices to communities as they're facing issues related to youth and families and also drug problems in our community. So with my colleagues who are here with me today, we've come up with some ideas of best practices for towns in order to address drug-related crime quality of life and safety concerns in the community. With the permission of the chair, can I share this document that we put together?
Can I ask, did you attend these meetings as they've been doing this process over the last year?
We have, and we've given specific recommendations in the process.
If I may,
Yeah.
you can correct me. Their advocacy has gone a long way towards presenting the definition that you have today. And that was an attempt to harmonize two different groups with two different thoughts on this matter.
Can I give this to the select board? I sent this out earlier today.
Sure.
For me, if I may,
Yeah.
it was just like I received that email at 4:45.
Yeah.
It was
A little late.
15 minutes before I'm getting in the shower to prepare for this meeting. We've been discussing this for a long, long time, and now we're
Just getting there.
just trying to figure out the timing.
Yeah.
And if you did attend the meetings and you did collaborate with this ordinance on that.
So I just wanted to very briefly speak on concerns in general around nuisance ordinance of the nature that has been brought up around illegal drug activity. And we recognize that we all want to maintain our quality of life, deter crime, keep our families safe, use taxpayer resources wisely, and make sure that we have appropriate services available for our neighbors. And we want to be able to address these issues in the most relevant and effective ways. What our concern is with what they call chronic nuisance ordinances related to drug activity or addiction or behavioral health related issues that lead to nuisances is they really have not shown to be effective, and that evidence demonstrates that they actually, as the quote says, chill reporting of violence and deter people from seeking help in a crisis. And in reality, although when there are exceptions for victims of domestic violence and access to medical services such as ODs, they actually don't work either. Because fear of police involvement in a situation of a crisis and fear of losing housing are the primary reasons that people don't call 911. And often in the research that we've gone into, that while there can be exceptions in nuisance ordinances surrounding these issues, the incidents are frequently miscategorized and the victims are penalized regardless. So we have concerns about those types of, that type of language, even if there are adaptations to consider victims of domestic violence and the need to call in cases of overdose deaths. So really we would advocate for other best practices and policies and programs that are effective and that are actually happening in our community. And for the sake of those in our community who have family members in their homes that they're trying to get resources for, a nuisance ordinance related to specific illegal activity will actually deter folks from getting those services because of the stigma and isolation that these types of policies can create for folks, and actually will make it hard for them to get the actual treatment and effective public health resources that they need. So as you're considering this, we wanted to share that information with you to think about as you're voting on it tonight.
I'd rather suspect that the visit of the U.S. Attorney's Office may somewhat correlate with this content of this ordinance as it's proposed. And what I hear from some of the constituents that talk to me is they have issues with homes being used to deal drugs out of. So I'd be inclined to keep an open mind, but to also hear what the U.S. Attorney has to say. I mean, this isn't something new. It came up back a few years ago when I checked into it on Board of Trustees with a neighboring department, and then contacted the U.S. Attorney, and there's a mechanism there that, from my understanding and from the people that I talked with, works to alleviate a situation that's impacting the neighborhood. So,
Are you talking about the template for the leases?
Yeah.
of the homes?
well, that was an element that was discussed, but
Yeah.
this, I see F, as it's described here, is a tool and a mechanism for like an extreme case or a case that's impacting a neighborhood where there's frequent drug traffic out of a specific building or residence.
Yeah, and we recognize that there is a drug issue in our community, and that there are public health approaches that will help us effectively meet those needs of folks.
Right, you stated earlier that there are resources here in the community, but I believe this brings an added resource. You know, it may not be the mechanism that some people may not approve of in a fashion, but it sends a clear message that we're not going to tolerate it in this community either.
Well, I'll be clear that when someone is in the throes of addiction, a deterrent is not going to stop them from using drugs on that property. That's just, addiction is a disease, and when you're caught in that cycle, these types of policies can actually deter people from getting the help that they need.
And I'll be clear that when people contact me and describe that they have a problem with the residents, that they want something done with it, I understand it's nice for those that will take you up on getting that help and actually go to honestly fix their problem. But there are problems in this community where there are houses that are frequented, that you introduce the element of a watchful eye or police presence, it, you know, tends to at times move them along somewhere else. And you know, I'm sure you have the resources, but from the people I hear, they don't want it in their neighborhood.
I understand, and neither do I. And I want us to be able to come together as a community to approach people compassionately with the resources that they need when they need them. And our concern is that bringing code enforcement protocol is not the way to go about that.
Can I ask, maybe Chuck, I mean, if this situation does come up, I mean, and you go through this process of working with the homeowner of how to address the violation. So in that situation, would it be then working with a group like
The
this?
safety officer has broad latitude and discretion to see how we're going to administer that, but it's based on the individual. We've had situations where landlords just point blank tell me, I don't care, the check clears. And that puts us in a predicament. So we may exercise that option. But there are other times where it hasn't been noticed until we make that call, and then they do something.
So if I may, I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yes.
Questions? I would like to introduce Susie Belici, who's from the Restorative Justice Community Justice Center. And I think that there's an opportunity here to collaborate with her program in order to create positive solutions for everybody through the mechanisms that you're approaching today.
So thank you. My name is Susie Belici. Do you need my last name spelled out? You got it. So I run the Restorative Justice Center here, and I've spoken before you before. We're underutilized, and this is right in our wheelhouse. We want to be busier than we are. We really, really do. And I can see this chart that you've created, lots of entryways for collaboration with us. We would love it. And we work with the police department, we work with the sheriff's department, we work with the state police. We're funded by the Department of Corrections. We have almost full funding from the Department of Corrections. And we work a lot with probation and parole. We work with folks that have gotten out of prison and have to do community service. They have to do community service. We want to help. You have ideas for how to fix up blighted property, we got guys who are itching to do work since they've come out. We have people who are in our program before they go to jail. It's called reparative boards, reparative panels, reparative circles. It's an ancient model. I've come and spoken to you about it before, but I love it and I'll speak about it again and again and again. It's not something that we created here in New England, or it's from when civilizations began, sitting around in circles. We in our own community are going to solve our own problems, and we don't need outside funds to do it. We run these circles with volunteers right here in Bellows Falls every single week, and when someone gets in trouble with the law, they can come and sit in a circle with us. We work very closely with Tracy Schreiber, the state's attorney, who refers the cases to us, and they sit with your community members who do both support and accountability. We call it hand-holding and butt-kicking. We say, you weren't raised this way. I know, because I helped raise you. And what's going on? How did I, my neighbors, me, our family let you down? We do both of those every single week when we sit with our clients. We are supposed to call them our folks or our people, because we're shifting and not thinking of them as our clients or our neighbors. We would love to step in with you on any place of this ordinance around drug use and substance abuse and substance use disorder. This new term I'm learning, substance use disorder, SUD, I guess is the term that I'm learning from my colleagues. That's not my area, but they're experts. This is what they do for a living all day long, prevention and recovery. My expertise is in justice, and I've been doing justice for 25 years, community justice. We got it in this room, we got it in this town to help with this problem, so I want to offer it. The document that we gave you, I'm sorry that it came so late, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's too late. We have some things in here that I do want to point out to you, so if you could turn to section 2 on best practices and policies and programs. Section 2, best practices, policies, and programs. I'm just going to talk about what I know, which is restorative justice. On the bottom, we have something called role and cost savings of restorative practices. Findings from the University of New Hampshire, the University of Vermont, the University of Georgia show that reparative panel members, those are the people who committed crimes, committed actions that we find worthy of citations. When you compare them to standard probationers who are significantly less likely to commit a new offense while on probation and during the 5-year period following the imposition of the original sentence. I'll read it again. Reparative panel members, those sitting in our circles, compared to standard probationers, are significantly less likely to commit a new offense while on probation and during 5 years after their offense. If they're sitting with us in circles, recidivism goes down. Crime rates go down. It works. The second thing I wanted to point out to you is the implications for tax savings. One longitudinal study conducted in Wisconsin found that the cost savings concluded that $1 spent on restorative justice saves $8. We offer it to your community for free. And we want more work. And we get paid by how many clients we have. It's an incentive for you to send them to us. We get more money from the Department of Corrections the more clients we have. The Department of Corrections wholeheartedly believes in this. Vermont leads the nation in circles of support and accountability. That's another word, COSA, C-O-S-A, circles of support and accountability. We have more in the state of Vermont that's sitting in circle with people who have done harm. We have more in the state of Vermont than in the entire United States combined. We are leading the nation in restorative justice. We're being called, tasked, asked to go around the country and speak about what we do right in these tiny rural villages and towns, because it's working. That's, I think, the main thing I want to offer, and I can answer questions, kind of.
I just have one, if I may.
Yeah.
Just am not understanding what, I think this is all great information. I'm trying to put it to this ordinance. This is, other than the section F we read, this is mostly focusing on, nuisance, blighted, unsound, abandoned properties. That's the part I'm not quite understanding, why at the 11th hour we're receiving this information and talking about reparative justice in reference to this ordinance.
If not the 11th hour, I don't know when. Right now is the time.
Reparative, I don't understand that in reference to this ordinance.
So in one part of it, which is the blighted structures part, I can speak about that, and I can also speak about the particular section F. I could talk about both of those if you want. What part?
I'm not sure what you want us to do with this information you're giving us in
Okay.
reference to this ordinance,
Got
which
it.
mostly focuses on buildings.
Mm-hmm. So I
That
wonder, thank you for asking, and I wonder if any of you have ideas about what I've said that can offer to alleviate some of this concerns that you have with this, with blighted structures? Did something I say spark in you, aha, that could work?
I think with the section F, I mean, if you go to a particular house, I mean, and then you're not just throwing a fine on them, you're pointing them to the resources in the community that can help. I mean, there are going to be some houses, like you said, the landlord says, I don't care, they sign the check. That's going to be a little bit more complicated. But there are likely situations I can see arise where you're working to help one way or another. I mean, and that's part of the remedy, is going through these processes. I can see that being a way for the two to work together.
Someone else?
I got Joe's suggestion I would have is that as long as they have your contacts, then as this progresses, if there's an issue that does come up pertaining to this, then they know that you're a resource that they can go to and get some help. Or refer these people to you to get help. And
So
you may
what-
have avenues to help them that we haven't thought about.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so that would be my suggestion, but I don't see, I agree with you, Donald, that I think this ordinance needs to go ahead. Plus it also is, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't take effect for 60 days. So if we sign it tonight, it's got 2 months before it's even effective, and then you can petition, or somebody can petition, to either reject it or whatever. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have 1973 in front of me, but, WSA, but, I understand if you get the required signature, then it has to come back and rehashed again.
So one of the things that we can do is create a memorandum of understanding with the police department, which is what's happening in some of the other communities, where the police department gives a citation that has a choice. And one of those choices is you can pay a fine, you can do all these other things that involve the criminal courts, or you can go to the restorative justice panels, the reparative panels. And the police department would have a separate citation booklet that they rip off and they give to the ordinance breaker, who then has our phone number and our contact details, but we also get a copy of their address and their details. And we begin a relationship with them that's outside of the court system, although the police originally can give the citation. We'd love to have that memorandum of understanding involved in this. We'd love to see our name inserted somewhere in this map, many places in this map. So that's one of the ways that I see that specifically related to the entire ordinance that you're talking about. I want to see restorative justice in here. Why wouldn't that be the case? We're free. Why wouldn't it be, the police department would be happy that we were going to step in and take over on something that's a nuisance to them. But on top of that, as far as F is concerned, this is more my partner's area than mine, but we're three community partners on your side with this. We want to make sure that we don't have houses that are attracting folks that are using drugs in ways that are scary. And what I've learned from my colleagues is that these punitive measures just don't work. They just don't work. So it can appeal to the nature in us who say, but my neighbors are calling and they want me to fix this. But we have evidence, we have stacks and stacks and stacks of evidence that these ordinances, specifically Section F, don't work with those who are in active throes of addiction. What does work is getting them over to us, getting them to recovery coaches that are free. We have recovery coaches in this town, and that works. Get them there. Get them to the organizations that do this for a living every single day, because punishing people that are in addiction, it just doesn't work.
Okay, well, as Chuck said, there are several options open before we get to the hell be damned attitude of, line them up against the wall and pointing at them and say, you will do this. So we have your information, your contact information. I assume that would be part of the whole process, that if there's an issue that came up that needed some extra input from your side of the issue, that they would contact you in a way and say, look, we got this problem with this particular landowner or this particular person that's renting this out. What can you do to help this guy out or whatever? I'm sure that's not, they're not.
It's already part of
issue
our
a ticket
process.
and just say, now you go to court and, and you handle it that way. That's not the intent of this thing, so.
Barb Dana has been a resource for us since day one. And when human factors are involved in a place that we go beyond structures, she's immediately recruited.
Yeah, so it's another option, it's another tool.
Yeah, so it's
That's
another
right.
tool, so. We appreciate your input and everything, so, I mean, it's good to know that we're aware of what you do anyway. I mean, you're at different meetings, you come to us with different issues that you're going along with. So you're not unknown, so, but.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that the ordinance as you have it with the Section F, that's an enforcement mechanism. And we need a public health approach to this. And as we've shared in the documentation, that when you're in, I'm just very concerned that we're looking at this from a black and white enforcement issue. And that hasn't solved too many problems when it comes to drug-related issues in our country and in our community.
Well, I disagree with you. I think we're looking at it in the elements of the ordinance, not just that part, but looks at it as an emporium of different options and different colors of different mechanisms or tools to utilize. Evidently, it seems that you're probably pushing more of the rehab and rehabilitation and restorative part, but there are some people in the community, or some people that are in, and I hate to hit upon this, the drug dealing business. They just don't get it. They don't care about lives. They don't care about messing up somebody's lives. They care about the dollar and how much they can whatever. So, I mean, I think there's a broad spectrum in this ordinance that allows this, but, I'm sure your options will be utilized in some capacity, form, or manner, but there are some times where some people, it doesn't get their attention, or they don't want your help.
Okay, I think we've exhausted the issue.
Yeah.
I'd like to, unless you have a comment, one more.
I don't know, I feel like, for what this means to me is that right now we don't have anything in place, and I feel like right now when we go to a place that is nothing related to F or addiction, there's nothing in place to enforce it. So when someone does something that calls fire or medical to this place and we discover the filth or the living conditions, there's limited we can do to correct that problem without something in writing to take the steps of the first bubble to go whichever direction they go. If they contact you, if they contact anyone, right now there's nothing in place to guide us that way. And to me, that's what this is. As it goes, that's what this is. That's what this is about. It's about someone who lives next to someone who has the second floor full of trash. They rent it to someone who uses too many drugs, lights their mattress on fire, the sprinklers go off, ruins the business downstairs into the next. There's no penalty for anything. I think you said So right now, there's nothing to prevent that from happening or to enforce a violation we would find. That's what this is about. Or someone who's lived next to someone for years who just doesn't take care of their house in an unhealthy way. That affects them. That affects their property, that affects their well-being. Right now, there's nothing in place, and this is a step to enforcement.
Can I ask questions?
Yes?
I have like 4 questions, but they're short. So I'm Ginger Driscoll, and I'm a resident and a homeowner in Bellows Falls. That's what these questions are about. So one of the things is accessory structures need to be secured against trespass. And I'm wondering if that includes like sheds, garages. Is everybody in town basically gonna have to put locks on things that they haven't been locking for decades?
I would say it's case to case. I don't know the answer. If it's a shed and there's no way, I don't know.
It has to be by complaint. We have to go in there, just a shed unlocked for, just unlocked. Most of us have unlocked sheds. But this has become a point of conflict. People going in and out of there doing something.
The reason why I ask is because we're gonna be basing things on the writing, right, of this. So if that's not clear in this, then it can be used, not necessarily to universally enforce
It has to
something.
be, a complaint will receive any action in this ordinance.
And I don't know if you guys have ever had neighbors who just don't like you.
A what?
A neighbor who just doesn't like you and may be complaining when they wouldn't be complaining, for somebody different. So I think relying on complaints is a start, but I think it's kind of naive to think that people aren't going to be complaining in order to harass people. So that's why I think it's important to
That would be up
have.
to the safety officer involved. I mean, they would
Yeah,
have to just.
but that's why I'm asking, because the writing is
Get the
not
information
clear.
out so that they consider how serious is the situation. Is it
Yeah.
a case of somebody doesn't like you or something like that? Then we have to refer it to, like, perhaps those people and say, okay, we need them to step in and talk to this other person
Okay.
and find out what their problem is and see if they can correct it.
Okay, and I'm asking, the reason why this question is coming up is because that's not clear the way it's written.
Oh, you're gonna get a lot of those too, I would imagine. but-
Which, yeah, and that's kind of one of my last questions. So my second question is it mentions fees for an inspection. And I'm wondering at which point in the flow chart does that come in? If you're getting charged $100 in the green portion, I'm worried that it could become a source of income, which can lead to more enforcement than's really needed. I don't know, it makes me nervous as a homeowner that that somebody might break my window. And then I have to pay $100 on top of fixing my window because somebody says, hey, there's a broken window over there, and then there's an inspection, which is $100. I'm not sure if that happens in the green part or if that happens in the red part.
I mean, that would be subjective as to whether it's a police action or whether it's an action that affects this ordinance.
So that initial inspection is.
If somebody throws a rock through your window, I mean, that's nothing that these people are gonna go out and enforce this ordinance on. You would imagine, hey, you would call a cop and say, somebody just threw a rock from my window, I mean, I don't know. And then they would do the investigation, so it wouldn't involve a fee as such as this mentions. If it was something worse than that, or somebody threw garbage through your window or something after they threw the rock in there, then there's an issue that we might have to go that way. But it's all subjective. It's not going to be, it's not a cut and dry that if somebody shows up at your door to look at something, it's got an automatic $100. I mean, if it's a minor issue, I'm sure they're not going to whack you with $100.
Well, then once
it's
again,
common
I'm
sense
looking at
takes-
what's
takes-
written.
Yeah.
What's written is if there's an inspection is warranted, then it costs $100 to the homeowner.
That's with documented violation, so it has to be
So-
a documented violation, it couldn't just be a complaint.
So the documentation there would already be an inspection to make that documentation?
Yes, it's a retroactive kind of fee. That was just to cover our costs, it was not meant to be a source of revenue, because I know some towns do
Yeah.
that, like,
And I can see a lot of these, like where it's meant to be, it's just, I see worst case scenario.
I totally agree with you. Well,
which is like,
and just so that you know, as part of the process, because we've been talking about this for a long time, there were suggestions that there be a process where if someone complains too much, that they be deemed, I don't remember what the word was, but they were gonna be someone who couldn't complain anymore, but that was going too far the other way. But I'm just saying that so that you know that we did talk about frivolous complaints.
Okay.
And decided not to ban someone from making future complaints because they had made frivolous complaints. So there is an awareness that neighborhood or neighbor relations can sometimes be abused through things like this. So I think what we really need to do, this is such a big step, that's one reason we went slowly in the process, is have review on a periodic basis of how the ordinance is going. Maybe every 6 months, definitely at least once it's been in effect for a year, and just come back to you with a report on what's happened, what has been enforced, what kind of complaints we've received.
The $100, if I may, does not really cover the costs. We have noticed that there are just chronic problems at certain locations, and they treat government services like it's just an expectation that we're going to go there again. And so these places 2, 3, 4, 5 times a year, every year, because we're just not moving forward. And so we wanted the most minimum of incentives to say, this starts adding up. So we're trying to incentivize you to do the right thing. The 2 safety officers doubles the cost of anything. That idea was that there cannot be somebody like me who takes an overzealous approach. We're going to use numbers to our advantage, and 2 people have to come to an agreement, and that hopefully moderates our views to the extent that we're cooperative and we work, respectfully with every individual issue that comes up.
Okay. So I just have two more, and you basically answered my last question, which was, are you going to review this and see if it's working? Because I've heard a lot of things tonight that it could make things worse. But my middle question was, I've heard a lot of great things that make me feel better about this ordinance, but they're not written in there. Is there any plan to add those in there? Because the language in here doesn't really allow for these, like it allows for it, but it doesn't allow us to count on these solutions, like the trying other options before going on the punitive financial criminal stuff.
Right, can I address?
And that's all I need.
Yeah, we can't actually change the language now, because we'd have to go through a whole new process. But certainly the minutes of this meeting will be documented, and I mean, I'll make sure that the minutes reference what we've talked about, so that speaks to intent.
Okay.
Someday, this will be amended. I mean, it's not gonna be this way forever, but just to document the intent, I think that's really important. And I'm happy to work with you guys too, and I'd love to take you up on the labor too, because that's a place where you can really be helpful, is in fixing up some of these properties. That would be just tremendous.
Thanks for letting me ask
Wendy,
you.
one sentence I've been very proud of that we had added early on. Safety officers shall make every effort possible to secure the voluntary cooperation by persons responsible. So early on, I feel like we're in complete agreement that our philosophy is very much in line with yours, that the burden is really on voluntary compliance, not on penalty. And it's written.
Did you read the part, make it clear that 60 days?
Yeah, that's what I said, I don't have the PSA in front of me, but I think they can petition and have this recalled or have it changed. Like I say, it doesn't take effect for 60 days anyway, so if we sign it tonight, it's 2 months for anybody to take any action on it. So with that going forward, entertain a motion to either approve, remand, or whatever this ordinance. Someone make a motion?
I move to approve the nuisance, blighted on sand or abandoned property ordinance as proposed.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And for those of you who are interested or not interested, the budget discussion will be starting very shortly. So if you want to hang around and listen to us fight about money, that's fine. You're welcome to stay.
Clerk. We did.
Both
We did it
members
as-
brought their information
Yeah,
from
so
the
as, yeah.
and the new one for the higher one.
Fire, but that would be a roll call.
Okay, first item is, on the budget, is going to be town clerk. Okay, we want to hit the revenue section, which is on, I'm assuming on page 2. It says, charge of services, fees, town clerk fees, bulk usage, et cetera, et cetera. Off the page.
I'm going to do it, I can copy that, so I have mine in my car.
This is, you can have this copy, but it's only for mine.
We can run down and get you one for the other one.
Right. I kind of dropped a note that something I can forward to the topic.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, have at it, Kathleen. The fun part comes after this.
No, go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
I mean,
It's basically,
well,
well,
the town clerk fees, those are gonna have an increase of, we figure between about 16,000 this year because the fees went up. So the recording fees, that, yeah, I figured that should go up about, the fees increased 50%.
and that was based on state statute.
Statutory.
That was not the
Yeah.
choice of
Right.
the local.
Right. So we figured that that's probably going to be an additional 16,000 there. The vault usage fee, we agreed to keep the same. Right?
Yeah, and we thought it was probably, well, because last year was 479
Right.
unaudited, but we think it's gonna be a little bit less because of the online ability with the new system.
Right, but yeah, because then they won't have to come in to use the vault to do their research once we go online.
Which is, have we gone online?
We have not yet.
Okay.
No. I've been in contact with them. Another thing with that online, we agreed on $2, $1 for them. We can raise that fee too if we want.
Oh.
It's just it'll always be a 50-50 split.
Okay.
But like if we wanted to charge $3 per document, you know, if they print them offline, it will be $1.50 for us, $1.50 for co-file. But if they come in to print it, it's only $1. And we can attribute the extra cost to the maintenance and the upkeep. And because some towns are charging $3 a copy for every copy that people make online. And they attribute, because the state statute says you can only charge $1 for a recorded copy per page. But if they're charging people $1.50, then, or the extra, they're putting it, you know, that's a maintenance fee. That's the upkeep of the records. That's how they're getting away with charging the extra. But if they come in to copy it here, we can only charge them $1.
Okay. But right now, we're at the $2 online.
Right.
Okay. So then we go to the expenses?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
photocopying fee, we were doing away with that line.
Right, because you guys don't do photocopy.
Right,
Okay, so that's the revenue,
yeah.
which is, how does it compare to last year?
I don't have one that shows.
There's reduction, dollars, there's reduction.
8,000.
8,000 more?
85, 80, yeah, 8,400.
Okay.
But it's likely to be more than that because you're already more than that in this fiscal year for those fees. You're, where it's quite a bit already. But that's a,
I think I'm at 46% right now for this year.
16,000.
No, well,
Well, it might be more because this was probably a lot of, but,
Yeah, we're at 16,000 right now.
so that might be.
But this was year to date.
Right, so this might be conservative, but maybe at that.
Well, this has had some of the new fees in it. Because that took effect.
Right,
July.
but I'm just saying that 4,500, we might actually be slightly higher than that. But we don't.
I don't have the same thing you're looking at, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Just year to date financials.
Okay, so you want to go to expenditures?
Yep.
Page five.
On page 5, I believe.
Page 5.
Of the big printout. This one. Right. This
You're going to do elections first?
one. Sure.
Oh, elections.
Oh, that's. Oh, I'm sorry, because elections is later, isn't it? Why don't we do the town clerk's office since we're on
Yeah, we'll
page
do
five?
town clerk's office on page
Yeah.
5 first, and we can back into the other one.
All right, so we talking about salaries?
Yes.
All right. So again, I am proposing a 5% for Barb and I. As you can see, this is the only opportunity I get to ask for a merit raise. Barb and I have taken on a lot since Carrie left. We're taking some of her job duties, and we just feel that with the extra income we'll be getting, now is the time to ask for it. So instead of the normal 2% that the union people get, I'm asking for 5% for both of us. So not in an additional 5%, like an additional 3%.
For merit.
Can you explain that in this letter? Is this letter for us,
Yeah,
private?
no, it's not private.
But he explains some of the things you just mentioned, like this is your only opportunity.
Right, and it
You don't get a
explains,
closed door
some of
meeting.
the things that we've taken on, all of the recycling permits, now the parking permits. Where we've saved money, we've consolidated some things in the vault, so we don't have to spend $20,000 to $30,000 to build new shelving for the vault.
Making a huge effort to avoid spending that kind of money by eliminating what we don't need. We're working with the state through the retention schedule. We're getting rid of everything. We're moving some stuff that doesn't necessarily have to be in the vault. So we're trying to make as much space as we possibly can. We're reorganizing and just trying to make enough space so that we do not have to come to you and say, now we need 30 Gs to fix the vault to be able to put more stuff in there. We're trying to put it off for as long as we possibly can.
A lot of the stuff that is in there was kept far too long. This did not need to be kept as long as it has been. But that was the old clerk, and she didn't like to get rid of anything, so. But that's why we're working with the Vasara, the archives, to see exactly, you only need to keep somebody's voter registration for 2 years after they've been added to the checklist, instead of back to the 1980s.
It was before that, because we found mine
Yeah.
in 1976.
It's just things like that we can eliminate and get rid of and make more room
How
for.
about like town road records and things? That's some of the
Town what?
town road records and things that are filed down there. We want to make sure that some of that stuff doesn't get lost, because that's our only chance to go back and look at something. If we have
Like highway maps and stuff.
highway maps or.
Yeah, those are all still in
Issues
there.
that have been filed, the plat.
I wouldn't do anything that did not belong to the clerk's office, and to me, highway maps don't belong to the clerk's office.
Okay, well, that's what you're trying to say, that you're not be throwing something away that we might want sometime.
No, I'm talking
Once
the
it's
stuff
gone, it's
pertaining
gone.
to,
We don't have a
like,
record of it anyway.
Grand lists, voter registrations. We now, the vital records are now done online, so we don't get those hard copies anymore for a vital record. We can print off a paper copy, so now it's going to consolidate our books. We won't have to be ordering a new hardcover vital book every year, because all we're doing is putting a paper copy in a Mylar sleeve and putting that in there, because we can't issue copies out of the vault anymore.
We're not getting rid of anything that isn't on the state list on the retention schedule. If we come across something that's not on there, we call the state. If they don't have an answer, we keep it.
Okay, well.
Yeah, no, there's nothing being thrown away.
Every time when you go look for something and nobody knows where it is, can't find it.
Yeah, that's part of the process we're hoping to accomplish, is cleaning it.
UCCs used to be put on an index card, and there are files full of them in the vault. I don't know what the retention schedule, now it's an actual form that comes from the state and it's put in the land records. So that just makes some other stuff that we can get rid of.
Usually, I think the UCC stays in place until such time as relieved or
Yes,
in
yeah,
full.
and then instead of that card file, we could scan everything and put it into a folder.
And does the Secretary of State's office retain UCCs too?
They have probably the hard copy
Okay,
now.
right.
And then they send it to us electronically. We just print out the electronic copy and scan it, put it in the land records. But I'm talking they were all done on little index cards.
Right.
Office hour consistency.
Mhm.
The rest of the office is open on 8 to 4:30, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And yours are always, they're never consistent with the rest of the
I
office.
addressed that in that letter to you folks. The reason we picked one late day is because people were asking us. People that work in Brattleboro, Claremont, Springfield cannot get to our office by 4:30 in the afternoon if they work out of town. So they asked us to have one late day. And the only reason we chose Monday as a late day is because I would remember things on the weekend that I needed to do. So therefore, I would want to go in Monday and get it done. Does it matter to me what day? It doesn't. That's the only reason we picked Monday.
But I guess the counter argument could be made that if everybody knows you're open from 8 to 4:30, they make an effort to get you by that time.
But then they have to either leave work early, they have to use vacation time or sick time or get out of work early.
It's just that, I mean,
Why not try to-
right now, I think there's 3, 4 different days that you guys are, hours are different than the regular office, so you have to go on the website to find out what times you're open, what times you're closing. I mean,
We've posted
So you gotta make
it,
phone
we've
calls.
posted it on the doors since it's happened.
yeah, I'm just, is this our only chance to ask you this? I mean, we're going to,
Yep. Yep.
stuff, so, Tom.
I kind of agree with that, and then, you have to pay your taxes during the same
I
hours.
have nothing to do with
No, I
taxes.
understand, but people aren't taking vacation or leaving work, and then just this Friday, I came here at 3 o'clock, pick up my packet, and I met a fellow in the lobby who was like mildly distraught because he just moved and had come to get a parking permit and didn't understand why the thing was closed, and he was very nervous about parking, and he was so upset. And I didn't tell him he wasn't gonna get a ticket, but I said, I don't know, they leave early on Fridays and, give it a go. Hopefully you don't get a ticket.
Rebecca is our backup for parking permits.
We do have a backup Fridays when we're not there.
Well, he didn't know that because that door's locked, and
Well, we hear from them that normally people who check our door go to the other side after
Okay.
that.
But we can put up a
I
sign.
don't know, he didn't, is all I can say. I don't know, I think it's kind of odd that it's closed. It's the busiest day of the week, I think.
Friday? Not for us.
Not for you?
We've done a survey.
Okay.
Attorneys do their closings on Friday, so no attorneys come into the office. They have all of their records done, all of their research done before their closing.
Whatever you've come up with and gathered your information, I'm just relaying some information from other folks and that person in
Yeah.
particular.
That's fine, and we also went through the town clerk handbook, and a lot of town clerk's offices are completely closed on Friday. I can show you anybody the book that
All right,
wants to see
I believe
it.
you.
Shane, do you have a comment?
One thing that could work is if one of you stayed late on Monday and one of you, and that person left early that Friday,
It
but
could
the
work,
office
but
hours.
that's not what we opted to do.
But
But
the
just
only
a
problem though
suggestion.
is like if one of us is out, then the other one has to be there,
And the
and
other
then you
one
run
gets
into
overtime.
overtime.
And I can't pay overtime.
So
for my
it does
office.
hit the budget one way, that way. Because we did talk about, all the options, like, 4
There's
10-hour
no
days for
wiggle
each
room
of
for
us.
overtime.
But it means like if I had Fridays off and she had Mondays, if she was out, I'd have to work, that day to cover her and still work my Friday, and I'd have 10 hours of overtime. So that's why we went with this schedule. It was what people came up to us and asked us for a lot of times when there's voting. And it's like, now that I can talk to you guys, this is what we need. And it's a lot of parents that, kids need birth certificates for college applications. They need birth certificates for their licenses. They can't get out of work. There are a lot of places they do not let you out of work. And the other, they wanted Monday because they think about it over the weekend. I forgot to license the dog. I forgot to register my car. I forgot to do that. So it's like a lot of people ask for Monday. Monday's no treat. Mondays are awful anyway, but, it's the day that people want it. So that's why we picked Monday.
Busy? Have you guys been consistently busy in the evening?
We've had a lot of people like marriage licenses. People come in together and they usually wait till they both get out of work and then they'll come in. Or people that need, parking permits, we've had a lot of people come in after 4:30.
That's the same with people asked us to open the polls an hour earlier, so we changed our hours there and are now opening the polls at 8 a.m. instead of 9. I'm elected, I have to do what the people want me to do. So I have to try to keep them happy if I want to be reelected.
Trying to accommodate when we can, basically it, so.
Okay, any other questions? Before we go to elections?
Well, we didn't finish.
Well, don't let me stop you.
What's next? Supplies. So as you can see, 19, I was over by 200. Let's see, I was asking for an extra 500 there because my photocopier maintenance fee comes out of my supplies. It's $56 and something a month that I have to pay for that. That comes to $600 and something a year. Out of the, now $1,500? If I buy 2 cartridges for my land record copier, those cartridges are over $200 a piece, and it takes me about 2 a year. So there's $1,000 right there just in those 2 things that hit my supply budget. It doesn't allow for a lot of extra.
So you would like 2,000 for your supplies?
Right, that's what we.
Instead of the 500.
Instead of the 15.
Or 1,500, I'm sorry.
Right.
Somebody explained, looking at the last line item, land record system. Did the contract change or something? Because last year we had 11.5 budgeted for FY19. And this year, this year we had 6,000. And I was going back up to 11.5.
When I came to my budget meeting, I had gave you a proposal from CoFile that they were going to give us.
It went up, we didn't budget it up.
Well, I know, that's what, but
You said we budgeted, we didn't budget it.
budget 2020, 6,000.
They were going to give us the same price for 5 years.
Oh.
Then Wendy thought we might go with NIMRIC. So when she came to you, she asked you to cut it by 5,500.
Yeah, do you remember they had a good, what I thought was a good proposal to, where they would
No, I'm
use
just
it,
trying-
but and Kathleen looked at it, but it didn't have the functionality of
I
the
remember you mentioned
profile.
that when you first
NIMRIC
came.
is very
Antiquated.
antiquated. the people that do use it wish they could have something different. However, it costs money to, I got a proposal from Co-File and another, I asked for a proposal from the company we were currently using. He never got back to me. All he gave me was an email that said, we'll keep it the same for the next 5 years. So it was the same price for either company. I stay with the one we have. I like the one we have better because it associates documents to each other and they're easier to find. Everybody that used it so far loves it, so.
You can access it from the internet.
Yeah, and yes, and the internet feature.
And we can charge you.
But it's a huge step up.
Anybody else? Can go elections now?
Meetings and dues?
That hasn't changed, it's
Well,
gone down, if anything.
it has changed just by next year is my last year for that NC class. So that's the 3-year program. I can graduate next year and then become a certified clerk at that point. I will have all of my points in and everything, so. I asked for 800 there to go up to 2,000 plus. In order to get points, you have to attend like the New England Clerks Convention, the International Institute. That one, I did go to we're in Region 1, and I went to that last year. It was at Sturbridge. I went to that one this past spring. I went to the New England one last November. That was in Newport, Rhode Island. So I mean, it's mileage down. It's the hotel room. It's the cost for the convention itself usually is about $150. Once I have all of the points done for my certification, I don't have to attend these things ever again if I don't want to. The membership fee for IIMC is $150 a year. If I become certified, I have to stay in IIMC. So that fee will have to be paid each year. You want to keep your memberships up anyways, but you don't have to attend all of the conventions. Okay, now we can go a little bit.
That's on page 4.
So we have 4 elections next year. We have the March town meeting plus primary. Village meeting, I guess, won't come out of this one. So I'll have 3 that come out of this one. We'll have the town meeting and primary in March. We'll have another primary in August, and then we'll have the November election. And because of the election that it's going to be, I am anticipating having to put extra help on the checklist. Just because I think the turnout that we're going to have for. So that's why I asked for an increase. We're going to have to print extra ballots, the 3. So I've asked for the ballot clerks, which are to pay the people. I've asked for an extra $2,000, because I'll probably put on 3 in the morning and 3 at night for each election. So that's like 6 extra people. And then the election expense, which is the ballots, the food, and all, I've asked for an extra $1,000.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
I think that's the end of me.
Any questions? I guess we're all set then. Appreciate you coming in, taking your time off.
Thank you.
You got to stay late on Tuesday too.
Okay, next one up is going to be the fire department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Page
I believe that may be under public safety. Yep.
It's page 9.
Page 2 on the revenue, if everybody's looking. in there.
Shouldn't be anything.
No, that's what I said, there's nothing in there, I just wanted everybody else looking at it. And expenses.
Oh, you were looking at revenue?
Nothing.
There might be a little bit
Yeah.
once we do that, because we did that other ordinances, but it's certainly nothing to count on.
Right. Okay. It's on page 9, for expenses. Looking under your equipment line. You got 20 grand you're anticipating, new helmets, 4 coats, pants, boots, Scott air packs. That stuff can be obtained by grants.
No, I've been trying, but right now, there's no grant available.
I'm gonna refer to the 2 firemen we got here, because I'm not.
Can
I'm
I
gonna
speak, can I
defer.
speak to this?
Okay,
So, what we'd like to do is establish a reserve fund to put this money into, because fire equipment's important. And then what we would like to do is have the fire committee oversee the fund, and we would, whatever we're trying to obtain, if there's grants or funds available, apply for them. And if we don't get them and we have to purchase them, we would have the reserve fund. But if we can, and we'll do it as all 3 fire departments is what I'm envisioning, and I can help on the finance end to apply for grants, apply for what we can and get what we can, but have a reserve fund that's over, that the fire committee oversees.
And this would be for all of the equipment, the engines, everything.
Every year. But this would just be a starting point.
anything else, anybody else?
So will that number go in a different line?
So, yes, we would want to establish a reserve fund, but for purposes of this budget, we wanted to ask for 20,000 to start. And we will be using all of the FY20 budget for that line to purchase things that are needed. Some of the firemen haven't had.
Yeah, that's always a far behind on turnout gear now.
Helmets and coats turnout gear.
I just got 5 pair of boots at $312 a pair. I bought 13 helmets for $300 some odd dollars a piece.
So we're gonna make sure to use the 7,500 because the reserve fund hasn't been established this year, but with the 20,000, that's what we're proposing.
Any questions?
Do you understand what she said?
Yeah.
You understand? Okay with that?
I guess.
So then in this budget, this number
Sure.
would go down, but the funds would be elsewhere.
Well, I don't know if that's gonna work.
Yeah, that's what I want to make sure you understand. Thank you.
Can you explain it one more time, Shannon?
Sure, so what we would do is establish a reserve fund for fire equipment and put the 20,000 in that reserve fund.
So that's gonna leave us with nothing then.
We'll know that you would be using the 20,000 to purchase equipment.
Well, only if the fire committee approves it.
And it would come to the select board too.
And
Or
then-
would
No, I
be
think-
just the fire.
So if you do it that way, and he has to go to the fire committee to see about purchasing items, what if we break something tomorrow night on a scene? He can't order it until the next committee meeting meets? Because we no longer have money in our equipment fund?
No, we can allocate a certain amount to the line item, perhaps 7,500 that we've been using. The problem is that we haven't been using, this fire department hasn't been using that line item. and they ask for it every year, so we just wanna make sure it's being used. And if we're asking for additional funds for particular things, we wanna make sure that the fire department does not lose the money that they raise, that it's there when they need it, and it starts building a fund.
So the 20,000 would go to 75 is what you're proposing now, or some other number?
Or whatever the select
Or maybe
board-
5,000.
Right, maybe 5,000 continues in this line item, and then 15,000 starts the reserve fund.
I'd rather have that 75 go up to at least 10.
I think I understand that the goal is to get the 20, but just put 75 or whatever you want to request for your equipment fund and allocate the 12.5 or whatever it would be to another fund to try to generate gear as a...
Well, one of the things that we'll do is, when you apply for grants and things like that, if you have matching
More.
funds or you have monies available to you, you're eligible for larger grant amounts. So, that would be one purpose, but the other one would be that if you didn't, for some reason, need it, or they didn't spend it all, they don't lose it. Because right now, the fire departments need a lot of stuff. And we want to make sure they can get it regardless of what fiscal year they buy it in. Just because maybe they don't make the purchase this year, we still want them to have the funds next year.
And we also want to do group purchasing too, so it's not just one fire department, and schedule them over, in a logical way too.
Right, we don't want any of the gear to be expired and buying it in bulk.
I would imagine somebody's air tanks may expire at a different time than somebody else's air tanks or protective clothing.
Right.
But you're talking about scheduling all at the same time.
Not necessarily, but just when we can buy in bulk, buy in bulk.
Right.
And and we know when the air tanks are going to expire, we can do multiple grant programs too. I mean, we can just do it in a much more organized and efficient way.
But, when we hear a lot of talk about grants, and it's great, we look into them and apply for them, but they're not guaranteed and
No, not
we don't always
at
get
all.
them.
Right.
But what we'd like to do is before we make any purchases, if there are grants available, be looking at that. Where it might be overseen right now, and so having a fire committee that has multiple firefighters and multiple voices, we might be able to all get together and apply for grants together.
And there's also a course coming up, and like there was some inside information about possibly quite a bit of federal money coming out next year for firefighters. And a guy was going to teach a class on how to find it. Can I ask a question about the synergy? Is that like your spotted down?
It's about the same idea, except Cincy comes through a lot faster than anything else.
And
The Cincy will come through 3 to 4 minutes faster than Toner will.
really?
Yeah.
3 to 4 minutes?
Oh, yeah. Just as soon as
Is that the one that's also listed on the internet that was free until last year, where you could go when
No, it was, yeah, they changed.
and then they
what we were
changed,
paying.
so yet now as a paying department, you're listed? Because you could go on there and see where.
The new one, it only does your department. The old one, you can see everyone.
Yeah. And that's, you've been using that for 2 years?
almost not waiting.
Oh. That's a better rate than it was, right? Wasn't it?
I think it's worse than it was, but
That was.
I'm not really sure what it was before, because we tried it for 3 months free, and then they all decided they wanted it because it came in so much faster.
Huh.
How's that? All right, any other questions? You got anything else?
No,
I'll bring up?
it.
Okay.
Anything else?
How's your building and the heat staying in and everything up there. And your water.
Water's good now. Got plenty of water in there now. Unless you give me that tank that's sitting down the corner though.
Try to find someone to buy it first.
You're gonna have plenty of room pretty soon when you come out.
Yeah, where?
The guy call you about the duck
Did
boat?
the guy from Canada call you about the duck
Oh, I've
boat?
had a lot of calls on it.
He
Oh.
called me, I
Did
took all kinds of pictures and videos and sent them up to him.
he? He called Firehouse last week,
I heard it got sold,
Yeah,
right?
well,
hopefully.
Can't believe
We
it.
don't know yet.
I haven't
Cool,
seen
and
anybody.
No money yet.
Okay, we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Well, thanks guys for coming in, taking the time.
Thank you.
Educate.
Yeah, oh, nice spot.
Recycle is done. I
Yes.
don't see Gary, do you want to just skip that and get into the highway, so these guys can get out of here and then we can decide what we want. We've been through recycle once already. You have.
We did go through it once, but, yeah, I don't know, I thought, well, we've been through it, you're so
Yeah.
involved in it.
I don't care, but I'm just
We
saying.
can just go through recycling really quickly,
Okay.
there's only a couple of changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
It's more straightforward than it was last year. Okay, so we'll start with revenues on page 2. Solid waste recycling. You know, we raised rates significantly last year, so we're not proposing any increase this year. If, just in general, if we needed to, we'd probably look at the per bag rate, which is something that Peter Gold brought up before, but we do not have an increase for that in this year. So first we have the tax rebate, which we're not going to get a rebate on it.
Yeah, we won't
because
be
of the
getting
settlement.
money going forward. But this year, we, just so you guys are aware, we did get the money back for the overpayment already.
That was last time. So that's the 1,800 from FY20 anticipated. Okay? So then, you can see tires, we're projecting the same. Cans, we're having, these are aluminum cans, we're getting less. So there's lower projection there. White goods, a little bit more. Brown goods is coming in where we thought it would actually. So that's one where we projected the increase relatively accurately. So we're keeping it, the dollars at 43,000 and the rate the same as it is now. Miscellaneous, we try to minimize any miscellaneous, so we're not projecting any. Scrap metals, same. Electronics, same. Garbage disposal fees. I don't remember why we increased that.
We've just been coming in over budget, so we thought we would increase that.
Yeah, there's not a change in our intended operations, it's just experience.
Not a change in fees, just I think more coming in.
And then transfer station permits.
So we, I made an assumption that we may not get as many permits sold this year, now that everybody's already aware of the process, they may find other avenues. So because it's revenue, to be conservative, I reduced the permit fees.
And as far as the process goes, we're gonna make it easier this coming year.
So you're talking of increasing bag prices for rubbish?
No.
No, I was just saying, that's an option that can be done during the year if we want to, but this budget does not include any additional fees.
Are we doing anything with the C&D? I know where I was behind on C&D.
We didn't for the purposes of this budget revenue-wise, but we can always do that.
And we did increase it last year.
Yeah, I know, it went up to 10 cents, we got
Yeah.
3 cents on it,
Yeah.
and talk was at that point going up to 15 cents. Just 3 cents got us $6,000 additional revenue, so if we go 5, we may get another 8 or 9, and that'll bring us a little bit further up the line with C&D, because we're not getting any gap about C&D pricing, there's no place else they can get rid of it, so I mean, and it's by the pound, so, same with white goods is another area that,
Yeah, the only
It's a
thing,
disposal problem, because nobody can get rid of it anywhere else. I mean, you can't leave it beside the road, I mean, you
well,
can't.
you can, that's the thing that we gotta,
But,
that's what happens if we raise rates
so
too
we're
much,
not
we
getting any
get
grief, I
dumping.
mean, because the only thing we charge for white goods is the air conditioner refrigeration. We have to pump, that's only charging $15, because that's what the guy charges us to take
Right.
the CFCs out.
If you wanna increase something, I'd increase C&D rather than white goods. Just
Yeah, I
because
tried
that's
hearing
more of a
about-
cost of doing business, and they can pass it on to their customers, and they're less likely to dump it somewhere.
Yeah, 'cause those big dumpsters fill up real quick. I know it's sad, I tell you, it was unbelievable. They were half empty, but by the time 10 o'clock rolled around, there were people laying on the ground.
And
With
how
that
are our
bag.
rates now compared to other places where people tend to get rid of it?
Was,
Are we still lower?
well, yeah, remember the lengthy discussion last year, and then
Well, we
felt
upped it, but I don't know
3
where we are
cents
now.
was very moderate. We talked about seeing how it went, and I think it's, I feel like it's still much less, right?
Not the
Yeah.
C&D, I thought we were gonna be equal to the others, I couldn't find something.
I know that on the rubbish, we're pretty much breaking even between the disposal costs and what we're making on bag fees. In fact, we're a little ahead. We're making more with the bag fees and stuff, so that's why I think we kept it to 3 cents on C&D, but now it's getting up to the point, because we also have to start covering for, your scrap food stuff. We don't charge for that, it's costing us money to get rid of now. That's up to a couple grand now? We don't charge for that.
Right.
Plus you've got brushes that we take in there, and it costs us $4,000 or $5,000, so we grind that up, we don't charge for that. So, we have to find revenue to make up for that difference somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you should consider something here, looking at the
Well, that's,
two
yeah.
lines here.
You mean revenue and expenses, are you saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can look at, we
I
can
mean, it's
propose
a
additional.
consideration, I think.
Yeah, I guess what we were thinking was we raised rates a really good amount last year, so we're just gonna stabilize this year, so we don't raise rates every year. But we can look at
Yeah,
that.
I think
Well, then we should see if we can reduce spending in any way in that category, then, if we look at the difference, we try to
It's cost of
figure out ways to
disposal.
not lose that much money.
The cost of disposal is going up, and I don't think we're keeping up with it. I mean, the rubbish is one thing, because that, as I say, we've been keeping ahead of that between what it costs us to operate the equipment and the haulage costs to dispose of it. We've been running ahead of that by about 10 grand, so that cleans up for some of the areas we're not getting revenue for.
Right, and we were hoping to get less material overall because of the.
But we're getting
because of
more,
the
even
fees, too.
for people that have roadside pickup, there's more people coming in and getting rid of our trash, even though they pay for it in taxes, they'd rather come in and dump it at our place at $1.25 a bag, because we're still cheaper than what they gotta pay to get rid of it, but I don't get it, because they pay for it in taxes anyway, but.
They have extra, they only allow so many.
Well, that's one of the
bags.
reasons, excuses, I mean, Westminster, the only.
And certain bags and certain packaging, and up there, if you bring it yourself, you can throw it in your truck and get rid of anything.
Yeah.
So, it's a convenience, I mean,
Yeah.
I still think it's the best deal in town.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt about it. That's why it gets crazy down there.
So
So,
we can,
We can look at
run
increasing.
rate
I think we-
increases
I
to
think
the
we need to
budget
project out
and
something
bring
for
that
that scene,
back
yeah.
to you.
I know
On
we're
the
behind
revenue
on C&D, looking at what your figures are to date and trying to pull those out to the next 7 months. It's, 6.5 months.
Yeah.
It's, you're still gonna be running behind on the C&D.
Yeah, and I do either bag fee, C&D, but not the permit fee. I think the permit was complicated enough this year, I wanna make that less complicated going
Yeah,
forward.
we don't get that much
So-
static on permits now. Most everybody coming in there now has a permit.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's,
but I don't
I mean,
think we should raise
and
that.
if their curmudgeon doesn't complain about stickers, then we must be doing something right. We must be having people. That's not been an issue, but it's a fact of, you still have to catch the person that throws bags in and doesn't pay. I
Totally.
had one the other day, did 10 bags of trash, Pay? What do you mean I gotta pay? How long has that been going on? There's a little sign right on the side of the thing, it's been there ever since we opened, you gotta pay the garbage.
I was gonna ask about that too. I've heard Shannon reference continuing to streamline the operation down there. Are we still continuing to look at ways? Because I'll tell you what, if you're not an honest person, you definitely
Yeah, we were
get
talking
away
about the
with
layout,
putting 10 bags in and not paying.
the layout of it, also hiring one more person that works there, which we've done, and then just the process. And we're evaluating all of that, and that will be, we'll be implementing those changes.
Yeah, before the end of this year.
Yeah.
I wish you the best of luck. It's a difficult situation. We're almost stopping, and you almost have to stop each person.
The thing is,
Or
you
they
have
just
to
head
ask,
out.
if you don't ask them, they just assume, you know, they pay, but a lot of times, you ask them and they say, oh, I have to pay?
Yeah.
Or they'll just drive all the way around and
Drive
the
around.
whole thing in a big
They're out the
dumpster.
gate, and then you know, Stephanie, you worked there 2 days, and when we had the sticker change with Chief, and,
I mean, I noticed for the first time this weekend, some signs by the roll-offs on the other side. I don't think those were there before, right?
which ones? The ones that
The
stop
big
and you
roll-offs
pay?
where you
Yeah.
can take, you
Yeah,
can
it's
put
a
any,
stop, because people would come right around the corner, pull over, start throwing stuff in there.
you could throw your bag
And
trash in there.
You would have to go over there and actually say, did you pay for that?
Right.
What do you mean? I said, well, read the sign, it says, you
So
know.
if you're paying for all that weight, we just should continue to try to figure out an effective way to monitor.
The
Yeah.
problem is, we don't have enough people down here
Right.
to run the operation for what we're doing. You know, I'm down there, but I shouldn't have to be down there.
Right?
But there's some other thing that we've talked about is who's in charge when the captain's gone?
Or Gary's.
We don't have anybody. Well, last Saturday, there, everybody was showing up at my, what do I do this, why do I do that? I mean, that's not my job. We don't have anybody as a second in charge.
Yeah, we need to do some organized
So we
training
need-
and some backup.
Needs to, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, there's some
tighten up.
financial things that need to be tightened up.
Yeah. And we've got
The
some-
restorative justice people can have good folks that
We
we
get,
recognize.
it's interesting, those people that do come for restorative justice, they've been pretty good. They've been pretty consistent, and they are very good. There's one girl that's down there that she's actually, she beats those people when they bring stuff and drop it in that building, and she stops them right there.
All right.
So, I mean, I'll say one thing, she's better than Happy Saturday, I can tell you that, so.
Do you guys want to go on to expenses on page 7?
Right?
Expenses on page 7.
I mean, can you get more of that kind of help?
Yeah,
I think that's-
Definitely, we will.
I put a rubber roof on Gary's building on Allen Street with about 10 of those guys several years ago.
yeah, no, for sure.
Fantastic.
So for expenses, one of the increases is the additional employee, but the other one is that there was some discrepancies in current pay of employees, so rectifying that. Other than that, really, we're just basing the expenses on what we have for goods coming in to pay for them to go out.
Right, so the next largest one after
And
the,
did you, the wages for recycling, you got $13,000 increase there.
Yeah, so there's a
Just
whole
explain
additional
it.
employee, and then we had a discrepancy with one of the current employees' salaries that's significantly less than the others.
Because I know the price that they're, I assume we're paying $15 an hour, at least that's what Gary told me that they were, when they were hiring.
But one of the current employees is far below that.
520 hours is, at 15, gets $7,800, so. That's what I'm trying to figure out, so if you have 4 people. Because we were at 27.3, and actual expenses in 19 was only 21,000.
Right, because there's
only
somebody,
two
And
people.
We budgeted 28 for this year, and we assume we're gonna hit 28, so. And that way, we assume maybe that's equivalent or,
We have a whole additional person for another 10,000 for the full year, a fourth person.
because I mean, they don't get any benefits, as far as I know, except maybe.
This is just salary.
Yeah.
Is it actual for 20? Do you know what that is? I mean, is it, because you still haven't hired that other person, right?
Yeah, we got.
We did, yeah, we have.
That's not super important right now. I understand the increase here.
Yeah, so it's a whole,
It's just something we should look at.
I have the wages right over to the left of the description.
Yeah. But I don't know.
okay, so what else?
That's. So. Okay, going down the line here. Were you gonna get a printer? The other day, it was interesting there.
I can't believe that one still
Dwayne
works.
and Jerry were arguing over that because Dwayne says, I run that thing for 20 years, and Jerry
It's
says,
historic.
every time you go to print something, you gotta turn the thing off and turn it back on and then print it again. And Dwayne said, you know how to run that thing, let me go show you. So Dwayne can get around
The
it.
printer for the scale?
It's an old pin feeder, yeah.
Yeah, that is in this $3,000
And I don't know.
equipment line.
Yeah.
That was part of that.
We're also getting fiber to the spot too, so we can do,
So.
we have lots of
And I don't know how the
potential
I don't know how
for
the sheet
technology.
feeder's gonna work, because if you're wasting a whole sheet of paper, where now with the pin feeder, if it only takes a half a sheet, you rip it off, so you know, it's a waste
I'm
of.
gonna let Gary work.
Yeah, but, I mean, people don't even know how to work that.
No, I know it, but I mean, just
Yeah.
saying that, usually people that get weighed up, they really got a half a sheet of paper that they go over to pay on, so.
Right, the system is really bad. It's very bad, and it'd be great to tie it to the finance system better.
Okay.
Right? Public works?
Where's your heat and recycling? Other than last year, I had some questions. Heat seemed outrageous or something.
Bob has heat in his building and the office.
Where is it this year?
It's probably electricity or fuel, right? Wouldn't that be?
I would think so. I don't see-
Bob's electric, and we building's propane.
I don't see any fuel.
There's $400 under
always-
recycling electricity?
Is that $400?
Fuel.
Would that be?
Yeah, 700.
Huh.
Yeah.
Somewhere we saw it one
It's
time. It
700,
was just
you
like
know, right below recycling.
outrageously.
Yeah, they just run out of prices of recycling on the tire.
They changed it. Heat system down there.
Okay, so the electricity is at down, yeah, okay. Okay, Tana, it might have been the electricity that you noticed, because that did go down.
Yeah, because everything there, all the heaters are electric, it's all portable.
Propane and.
Yeah, building office is
I
propane.
think, is there propane in the main office, right? Yeah, but it's, the printer is, right?
Oh. Guess we probably discussed the landline there at one point, right?
What's that?
Guess we discussed the landline there. at
Yeah.
one point.
Because they got fiber now down there.
That's what she said.
Yeah, there's a lot of improvements. We want to do signage. We need signage actually on Route 5 so people don't hit other people who are turning in. I mean, there's a lot of improvements we can do.
Because we're gonna be breaking even or losing money on tires, because the tire guy now has gone up on, we were charging $3 for tires, and we were making a few dollars on it. And now the guy's gone up to the $3 we're charging, so we're just breaking even on the tires. So there's another area we're gonna.
Yeah, tires are a frequently dumped item too, so that's
Oh,
why
yeah.
we just need to be
Well,
careful.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Page 14.
So this is a different fund. It's over 20 minutes per So where to begin? We have, obviously, we're gonna go over the operating budget. I brought a copy of the capital, the street paving, the current plan. So I can we just hand this out. We don't have to talk about it tonight. We can talk about it at a future meeting. But this is where one of the numbers in the operating budget comes from, because it's the total that's required to stay on this plan. And we talked previously about debt. A lot of our debt is from highway, so that's something I'd like to address at a future meeting. We can go through the projects. Do you want to go through the projects first that we had in the on the agenda, or do you want to go through the budget?
I don't need to go through those. Does anyone else wants to?
No, we can go for that if you want.
Yep. That's not what she asked, Peter.
Yeah. Peter, I think we should, it wouldn't hurt to just touch base, we don't need to spend a lot of time on it, just, because some of these projects relate to budget numbers in the budget.
Okay, so why don't we go to that part, because it has the photos of the projects.
Not out of the photos, just that first page.
So some are this fiscal year, and some are next.
Yeah.
Correlate with this,
No, not so much of that, but with the budget itself.
this is separate.
Yeah, that's separate, yeah. I'll refer to the sheet that's got the
In our back.
21 pages, yeah. The one prior to all the photos.
Okay, but that's the one that's on the agenda, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so that would be something that we could
Yep.
put up here.
So if we start at number one, Sax River sidewalks, so that'll be in the spring, we'll be starting some of that. We held off trying to put anything out, doing any work on sidewalks this year. Some of our sidewalk money was coming out of the park project. So we paid from the hydrant over to River Road. There was some sidewalk improvements completed on that, which is out of that Sax River sidewalk fund. So towards spring, we'll know exactly what's left and we'll know what we got to move forward on further sidewalk projects in Sax River. Bellows Falls sidewalks, just like FY20 and 21, we're pretty much after the latest printout. We've already expended the concrete that we had in there for FY20. So unless there's something real dire, we're going to be holding off on any Bellows Falls sidewalks until FY21. And there's a lot of sidewalks actually throughout the summer being completed with Cherry Hill, you got Burke Lake, and you got the William Street. Grizzle Drive drainage improvements, that'll be May, June of this current budget year.
Yeah. The latest printout reflecting Bellows Falls sidewalks, what was that?
I think we're pretty much there expended. I don't think
That's the financials you received that were through
year to date.
year to date.
And I feel like we put 15,000 for Saxon River sidewalks last year.
Yeah.
We hadn't put any for a while.
That sounds
And
right.
then we did on it.
The Bellows Falls were extended. Sax River we'll wait, we'll roll into the spring, we'll
Right, you were saying.
move forward.
We spent some of that tying into the park or whatever.
Yeah.
What you just said.
I don't believe it's a lot, but it should be in the 3,000-4,000 range.
And then the sidewalk map that you created or still creating, would that be updated with all the recent?
Yeah, we'll update that.
Pretty
Have
easily,
that
right?
changed, updated, yeah.
Program.
Right. CAD
Changing
program.
from red to green.
Yeah, 5 different colors, from good, excellent, fair, excellent, good, fair, poor, replace. Yeah. Number 4, grants and aid drainage. So far, we've been fortunate. There's been 25 to 28,000 or so every year on that. Pete and the crew's done a good job doing that. With one culvert left to replace, and then we can we'll do that in the spring. But we've done a lot of that work now. Usually we kind of do it in the spring because there's other things going on, but that, by just replacing that one culvert in the spring, then we're kind of freed up to do some of this crystal dry drainage. Electric, that's something that we've got to do. There's a few days worth of work there. But electric vehicle charging stations, that'll be in the spring. Number 6 is brick island improvements. So grants are not available for that anymore. So years ago, I believe we put in a grant for that, hoping the grant will help us pay for all the wages. They look at that as
There's nothing in the sidewalk issues that grants that give no sidewalks. I think somebody just got some up north, I think, for all that stuff they put in Burlington and screwed up the traffic fire. Showing according to Channel 3.
Yeah, I didn't see that. No, I'll look at that. There's
Well, these are already built out, so they consider it maintenance, that's part of it.
that's.
Okay. Well, I didn't know, I just.
Yeah.
Number 7, hydro drainage. You'll be seeing that grant application shortly with that. The budget does not have that in there, but I'll put some thought and some cost estimating to that. Whatever our match will have to be, it's probably have to come out of the surplus. I don't have anything in the budget right now, but we can talk about that, whether we put the difference in there for that grant or take it out of the surplus. So that's something we'll address in the future meeting.
That you're talking about the replacement of the
metal line that's rotting away.
Right, the current that's got a hole in there or something?
Yeah. Number 8, Route 121 by Ski Ball Road, that's actually the head wall there on both sides, that's in the current budget, or proposed budget, sorry.
You notice the one on the right-hand side is kind of, you can
Both
feel that
sides.
little
Yeah.
over now,
And then now.
settling out, yeah.
And gravel pit road, or gravel pit closure, number 9. That'll be, well, soon we're done, whether it's this summer, next summer, we've got to close it out. And then at some point, discuss what we do with it, develop it, solar panels. I know the board's talked about it before, but it's probably worth talking about again.
The 103 pit?
103, yeah. At least do something like solar panels, which generates money, maybe we could use that money to help buy gravel, because a year from now, we're gonna be looking at a gravel purchase item in the budget. I don't have that in here now, but we will be looking at that. Blake Street sand shed, I do not have that in here now, actually just no dollars in it, but it'd be nice to finish the one up on top of that. To finish the other half, so we can actually put our sand in there and leave the one down bottom, so we're not wrestling with the public, which is what we do right now.
Is that gonna be covered down there?
It will be, yeah.
I just wondering if you're talking blocks or something.
No, we're rebuild.
No, we're gonna rebuild.
Oh, you're gonna rebuild that one?
Yeah,
The public one?
right.
Well, it's ours too.
Yeah, it'll be both, combination both.
For this year, this winter,
Yeah.
folks will be able to go in.
Yeah.
For now, they can go to.
Rockingham.
Yeah. Let's see, culvert replacements, that's just in general, ditching, general, paving, chip seal, these are kind of general comments. Winter sand, every town, those, and I think winter sand is gonna keep, the whole area has lost the pit that, was it Dummerston's Putney Mott purchased? Which was sand available that Basin used to buy to sell to Springfield and some of the other towns, but maybe you guys got some out of it in Westminster, I don't know.
Yeah, we got all ours out of the past few years, but
Yeah, so it's gonna take a hit.
after a couple of years, yeah.
And someday, we're still gonna be faced with running out of sand, natural sand. And then we'd be looking at probably a fine crushed rock.
All wedge stuff.
Or maybe even just small crushed rock. I heard actually some towns have done that. They didn't know it's all business.
Yep.
In Colorado, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Sunderland, they use chipstone.
Yeah. And that tends to bounce off too, so you need a little bit of both there. Frozen road, you see a chipstone hitting off the bounce
Yep.
of the truck, it starts scattering toward the edge. What's with you? Maybe. Equipment replacement, we're looking at the equipment chart, actually called out for a loader replacement, 2013 Western Star. That was it. We're pulling off, been holding off on the loader at this point. We'll look at replacing 2013 Western Star and the equipment trailer we've got, which is a 96 Rogers 21 ton. We're looking at upgrading that, or replacing that. So it's quite a few years old by now. It's been repaired and patched a few times. There's not much left there without totally almost building a new one from scratch. And then number 16, typical manual catch basin repairs. And other things to look forward to is number 17, Leach Road box culvert. 10 years ago, we started, I think we placed one or two large culverts on Leach Road, but they all need it. So we need to keep moving forward on that. So the challenging thing on a future grant will be, talking to Chuck the other day, on item number 22, which you don't have on your list, but that would be a Front Street retaining wall. There's a retaining wall down on the lower end of Front Street is pushing into a existing house. So that one may take precedence, probably over on Beach Road. Number 18, looking to, I'll take your thunder on that one, but it's on there. Stormwater utility, so there may be some ideas there to generate future income for the town. Number 19, still gonna get out that right away RFP, so we can start moving forward with a local surveyor. And look for grant applications and assist as needed in water and sewer repairs. And your own approval, if you want to just kind of glance through those projects. That's they come up. Projects completed throughout the summer.
When you say assist in water sewer projects, that brings some of these photos that are in our projects, and we have down equipment, down men, we're getting reimbursed or paid for all the time. And trucks on Cherry Hill the other day, or guys flagging for Springfield paving on a sewer job the other day.
Yep, they were charged out on that.
Do you bill them, or do they reduce?
Well, they put on the time
They
sheet.
put on their time sheet, Canada takes care of it.
We use some of our trucks when they mill Pleasant Valley Road by the looks of these photos.
Yeah, that is not a
Get a
billed thing.
reduced rate? Or
Yeah, so
just-
how that would work, when I hired Basins, the contract with Basins was, it was $400 an hour. Okay, they provide a machine and the guys to do, basically it's a machine, no trucking. So it's $400 an hour, no trucking, so our trucks completed all the work. So had they provided by the square yard, which is a lot of the way people put it out to bid, we would have been paying about $30,000 for the whole project, maybe a little bit more. Hiring
Didn't
them,
we
as it was, we probably saved about $5,000-6,000 for us doing it, even counting the billable rates for our trucks.
Okay, well, we funded a certain amount, and didn't you tell us how far that would get us? Did we get all that? And then we gave some more money to extend it?
No, we didn't extend it, no, we did.
We, last year, we budgeted a little more for Pleasant Valley Road.
Oh, you're right.
Because you said.
Right.
We recommended it.
We took.
Recommended it, we listened to you.
Right.
We did it, so.
We did that.
All that, if you're now paying them by the hour, I'm just curious if we got done all that we anticipated getting done and perhaps got it done cheaper now, you're saying?
Yeah, we did, got it done and got cheaper. So the milling and all that, counting our trucks, was like 30,000 square yards. We did it for less than $1 per square yard with the trucking. Usually it's well over, it's anywhere from $1 to $1.50 a square yard. If you hired a company to do the milling and the trucking, the sweeping and everything else.
Sure.
So no, we did real well on that. And, not sure if they want to do it again that way, or if we do it again some other year in the future, they might want $500 an hour.
When they mill that stuff, did they take the millings, or depends on more of it? I know that sometimes they requested to take the millings,
Right. For example, a year ago in Sac River, when that was bid out.
That's what I was.
So we took a credit by them having taken the millings. We don't definitely want to deal with it. So they'll take it, they'll take it right to the plant. Give it to them, they get a credit of, it might be anywhere from $3 to $5 a ton.
Yeah. We had a pile up.
Yeah, we still do, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a pretty good sized pile.
Paving grants, any chance?
No, not
Are we gonna apply anyway, just to be, for grins and chuckles?
Well, we can apply, but chances are, what it's gonna do is if we're looking long, about 3 years down the road for Pleasant Valley Road to do more extensive operation. If you apply and if you get a little bit now, it's gonna probably kick that off another year.
Yeah, I remember you said that this year didn't get everything we were looking for either.
No,
There was some left
we put it
over.
for 30,000, they gave us 40.
Yeah.
And we did all plus maybe a little bit more on Pleasant Valley Road. I think it's another little stretch.
No, just wondering, if you don't ask, you don't get, I mean,
Right. unfortunately, we keep track of it. That's what's hurting the town of Rockingham on the structure grants. You know, for a number of years, the town of Rockingham was, and I think Westminster and Grafton, I think those three towns were like putting in for structure grants. And they're getting them. So now, because they've tracked it from way back prior to all it, so counting all those years that we received multiple grants, we're kind of on the slow wait list getting structure grants. It's made a big difference. You know, so it used to be every 2 years, and we were getting them every year or two. And now we're probably every 3 or 4. Yeah, we do apply every year.
And the state's really good about letting us know what's available and what we should apply for. And last year, she encouraged us to
We
apply.
weren't expected to get that grant for Sherry Yellen. We applied.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Year after year after year, 10 years.
That's right, yeah, a number of years.
Yeah.
I think we're 5 years, probably, I believe the town's waiting about 5 years for that grant.
At least.
Yeah, I know. We kept looking for that for quite a while. But, usually it's squeaky wheel gets the grease though, I guess.
Yeah, so we can consider whether you want to do you might get a small, $30,000-$40,000 grant, but at this point I would recommend for paving because it will, the next calculate, I looked at the numbers, and it will hurt you in 3 years. It's going to kick us probably to waiting under the whole year. Those are easy grants, all towns, you know, it's easy money. So now we'll jump into the budget.
So do you guys want to go through this line by line, or do you just want to ask questions? How do you want to go about the highway?
Sorry.
Well, show more pictures.
I have a
in the
question
meantime.
unrelated to line and numbers.
Here's the shed before and after.
How come they used expansion joints on the Birch Street sidewalk after you came in here and told me nobody uses those anymore?
And which side, the Burke Street? No, we use expansion joints every 20 feet. Oh, when we do it, okay, there's a difference. When we do it, we'll actually pour 100 feet, we'll cut it. So we're cutting in expansion
No, I
joints and
just
then we're
asked
sealing
you.
on it. Here, when you have a curve, you can't do that. You got the granite curve, you can't cut through there. So, you know, when, we, like for example, William Street, we had a concrete curve, we were able to cut through the whole thing. But you're not gonna cut through a granite curve that you just put in there.
So here's a photo of that nice sidewalk,
Yeah, beautiful.
which I think the neighborhood really looks.
Well, they did exceptional work.
Gorgeous.
It's about the best section right there.
Put the edge on top of the broom finish.
Yeah.
It's a nice sidewalk.
So where there's granite sidewalk, like sidewalk downtown, you're gonna use expansion joint every 20 feet, but where you have no curb.
Right. With no curb, you can easily cut it. For example, like Action Street, you got 5-foot walk removed from the curb, 3-foot grass strip and the sidewalk. 400 feet, cut your joints in and relief crack it and then cut it in day after. And we've been doing that a number of years and, and it's, I think, what I've seen around town, a lot of your expansion joints, a lot of the failures you're seeing around the sidewalks are at your expansion joints. And I'm not 100% sure why. I've got my theory.
Purpose of it.
No, I think my
That's the
theory.
purpose of it.
Well, actually, in Rockingham Street, you'll see that, I don't know if you were around when that heaved, but when that heaved, no expansion joints. It all raised up in a number of spots. That was one of
No
the things.
expansion joints?
With no expansion joints.
From the bridge clear up to 227 Rockingham Street.
And those weren't expansion, I think they were little, maybe 1 or 2 inch joints that were put in plastic.
Something, yeah.
They didn't go all the way down through. So, but I think when we pour 100 feet, it's well compacted, it's consistent the whole way when we cut it in. A lot of the guys will do, 15 feet, or 15, 20 feet, skip 15 and 20 feet, and do another 15 and 20 feet. But what you're doing, I think you've got your expansion joint in the middle and you're pushing that concrete to it. I don't believe you're getting the density of the concrete when you push it into it, as if you're doing a whole 100 feet all at once. And these guys, well, they poured 100 feet. Straight.
With expansion.
With expansion.
That's how you do it.
Yeah. Well,
We're off topic.
Unfortunately, they're 2.5 hours away, this company. And, you know, they'd leave at 4:30 in the morning, I'd be here at 4 and 7, they did 3 fourths a day, 300 feet. And there was some packing up and leaving by 3:30, 4 o'clock.
But for a large project, this kind of thing makes sense. But this was a huge project.
There was 1,800,
I mean, for us.
1,200 square yards plus the
Yeah.
added.
What was?
The Bird Lake.
Well, I mean, they probably would have came down and poured William Street one day. That's what you just said.
I don't know. I mean, they wouldn't have bid that
I think they would.
project on its own. It was too small for them, I'm sure. But as part of another project, they might have.
Yeah, a
If
couple
it was
of
all a
them.
package.
Yeah, a couple of them.
Yeah,
But we've got contacts for them, we can find out.
yeah.
Because had we know, they wouldn't do one unless they got involved. Wasn't enough for them. It's too far to travel. Or would it cost us?
And they have the curb company too, and they need close to 1,000 feet a day. You know, it was 800 feet they did. He said that's 3/4 a day. I think, wow, that's pretty good.
What's
It
going
was,
on for the
3/4 a day.
winter with the rest of that?
What's that?
What's going on for the winter for the rest of that?
We're done. What you see right now is done for the winter.
So the sidewalk didn't go as far as we thought it was going
I
to.
took a ride up at it, just marked clearly for pedestrians. And gonna try to maintain it for pedestrians.
Yeah.
I saw it looked like some,
You know, we'll try it.
something, sure back or something
Yeah.
by that last house.
That'll be all right getting on right there. It's all the rest of the way up. We're not gonna do anything on Park Street. I mean, on Blake
Right.
Street, right?
Right.
We're not doing anything on Blake Street.
We never did before.
Okay, that's all new.
It'll probably be better actually, because the plows will push it back. We're gonna be able to walk on the edge of the road versus in the road.
Is there a little retaining wall going?
Across from Grove.
Blake? Yeah,
Oh, just before you get to Park.
yeah.
We're gonna look at that, see how it holds up over the winter. We're either gonna put a granite curb in there, but actually the other thing I kind of learned recently from the guys that did the wall down here on Cherry Hill, it's, Peter
Oh, Welsh.
Walsh, yeah, Pete Walsh.
Yeah.
But actually, this got interesting. He said in Bradwell, they did a big project using waste granite pieces, kind of, sort of like waste, or like, not set of waste concrete blocks, which, you know, don't really look that well, you know, especially you put it there, but you can get one load delivered from up there, $1,500. That one load might do that. And those are big enough pieces if we can get them in there. If we need that, you know, we'll see how it holds up. But that would get us, we probably need 2 layers. One that would be tucked down just below, the other one would be on top. But that's something we'll address toward the spring. You know, we're hoping not to. The curb might do it, but,
Glad to get it.
yeah.
Okay, anybody got any questions on budget?
Are you sure you guys didn't have to file it?
No, we didn't. Yeah. Unfortunately.
I didn't think we were back to it.
Saw you dirt too?
License, yeah.
It wasn't bad. Wasn't too bad. No, we were almost out of it.
I guess the big thing on page 15, you'll see this is where it goes with the sheet that Wendy handed out. The $50,000 increase for paving, going up to $400,000. Actually, that sheet calls for $410,000, kind of short ourselves $10,000.
Is the first number correct with the 277% increase in differential pay?
No, so if
Yeah, it only has a 3% increase in that.
If you look at the overtime and differential pay, the FY '20 budget, they had most of it in overtime and just a slight
I think
amount.
I follow that part,
But so all I did was I just split the total amount for both 50/50, so there's no increase.
but it has listed in your difference FY '20 to '21 budget a 277% increase.
Yeah.
increase for the differential, but then a 41% decrease for the overtime.
Which
So
are basically the same number.
the overtime and differential together are the same number.
Oh,
It was just allocated,
okay.
how it was spent in FY19 and how we're tracking in FY20 is more of a 50-50.
Yeah, one thing is gonna change, when you talk about the.
Can I ask another question? The different plans available?
The health insurance, that's what I was just gonna bring
Can we
up.
discuss that?
Well, let us just give you a broad overview.
Because it's increased,
That's based on current plans.
Okay.
But we're going to bring you
Yeah, we don't want
a
to
schedule.
union stuff we're talking about.
so I.
Well, but this is not, this is for everybody, it's not union
So at a
stuff.
high level, we're looking at plans that would be cost savings without any reduction in services to the employee.
Great.
And we'll bring that to you for your approval
At the
December
very
3rd.
next- Your December 3rd
We
slot.
could put a question mark, I can put a question mark.
Yeah, and you can put it down arrow.
Yes.
No, I really-
Basically
Yeah.
placeholder, so.
Yeah, no, that'll be very helpful.
Yes.
Definitely, that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a big line.
Yeah. Just a point of curiosity, insurance incentive on page 14. If you go back to 2019, we budgeted 13.4, and we only spent 48.
So this
Was
is,
that,
so this is why,
I'm just curious why.
so from my perspective, in anywhere else I've ever done this, insurance incentive and health insurance costs are always in the same line. Because what happens is if someone jumps off of our health insurance plan and picks up our incentive or vice versa, those lines are going to be wildly off. So, you know, I think for FY19, the actual for health insurance and insurance incentive,
Yeah, because insurance, actual insurance is off.
but it washes each other
Just the
out.
cleaning.
But we are making, that's why I'd like to just combine them.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious, I just did a big change there, that's why I just didn't know maybe.
That could be one.
Yeah, one person can make a change, that's
But that's it,
$13,000.
yeah, so, okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions, guys?
Pete, I got a question on it, back on insurance though. Whatever you change, will it make a difference on, because the town's already got to commit
Yeah.
pretty soon. 'Cause
It will change your budget numbers.
No, you got to commit to the state of Vermont or to Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right, we know
What you
that.
pick.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're good on the enrollment process.
all right, just.
I'll come up and
But
ask if I
appreciate
need.
Okay.
Okay, we done with budget, or do you need more time on it?
Well, things that we need to go into more, and so maybe now is a good time to talk about the budget schedule, are the capital improvement, both highway and fire, and it'd be really good if we could have one consolidated program for everything. And then the stormwater utility, you want to talk about that a little bit more? Are there any other big items that we want to talk about?
Wait, where are we
The
at?
health insurance. Sorry?
Where are we at? I was still reading.
Oh, I thought, it looked like you
I hadn't-
finished
I
your
hadn't-
questions. And I was going on to the schedule, but we can go back on this.
Sure. Question, I feel like we talk about it every year, but street light maintenance, and then it just goes up and down, and now it's back up.
What page, I'm sorry?
Repair or replace lights and poles.
It's on page 15.
Page 15, sorry.
So the 60,000 or the 5,000?
That one in particular.
Mike, can you speak to the street?
I'm sorry.
Street lights?
Actual, we spent 336 in FY19, budgeted 5. We've never spent
Maybe
near.
budget for, that's about the cost of one light, that amount right there. And we lost one at Donovan's last year and we never found out.
So that's anticipated spending that much for that one light this year.
I'm not sure it's quite 5, but it's,
Yeah,
sometimes we can take a couple of
Did we just
repairs.
fix 2?
We
When they
did.
went on Canal
Yeah, but
Street?
we had to buy a new one. We had to buy a new. We lost,
Well, we
3, we
did-
lost 3 last year.
Okay.
Most of the time, the bases just break, but these actually, the poles broke right in half. There was no saving them. I take them up to Rick Crawford, he usually will come up with that.
And then,
And we do try to get insurance
I
reimbursement.
missed it, but it shows here we're budgeting 50, proposing budgeting 50 grand for sidewalk replacement. But I thought you just said we were gonna cap that for a bit.
Oh, no, I mean, that's proposed, so for the rest of this current budget year, yeah, we're done. But next year, I've got it in as contracted out, $50,000.
And we spent 6? How
Yeah.
would that be right?
Yeah, we spent about 6,000 on the concrete for William Street.
William Street. Just material.
Just
That's why we
materials.
have reduced the budget
Just
for
material
FY
costs.
20.
But that's just for contract services. That doesn't mean we only spent 6,000 for sidewalks. That's actually the other thing that we need to.
Well, that's my question. So if we're budgeting $6,000 for sidewalks, I don't believe that's only for material. So now you're proposing to budget 50, but you're gonna contract that out, so it's a project. So if we're budgeting $6,000
Right.
for sidewalks, and we have whatever amount of time invested in those sidewalks that we did, we're quite over budget.
We did
Would you
the,
agree?
we did the,
Huh?
That is material.
Yeah.
Because the actual time, if the town is doing it, is in
was in the salary.
salary.
So in FY 20,
And so why would we budget 50,000 in material? We're gonna sub
in
out.
FY 21, we're
sub
gonna
out
contract the
$50,000.
job out.
This is,
Material-
it's contract services in the future and it's materials in the current. That's the way this says. I mean, we could probably make that more clear. It does say in the description on the left, it says contract services sidewalk. So I guess we were saying contract was materials as opposed to actually,
Oh, no.
what I would think of as contracting would
Contract
be
is
to pay
contract.
someone to.
No.
It's contract.
Well,
So it's basically contract the
materials
whole
is
thing out.
usually.
So
there's the
materials,
materials.
equipment, labor.
Oh,
is
I'm sorry,
50,000.
so this contract is contract
Yeah.
for sidewalk.
Yeah,
So then the number's not accurate for anticipated for FY20?
No, we only contracted, correct, Everett?
Is that the Cherry Hill
yeah,
sidewalk?
6,000.
I mean, I'm kind of curious to see those numbers. I want to see those numbers.
Yeah, you just got them tonight, so I don't expect you to discuss them tonight.
We have them?
Do you, Everett, did you hand those out yet?
I would like to look at them. I would
Yeah.
like to table that discussion.
Totally.
I'm interested. So what I'm seeing is we budgeted $6,000 for sidewalks
Contract.
because it was a year, sorry?
Sidewalks contract services, that's not, there's another line above that's supplies. So that's different.
Right.
Okay, who did the sidewalks?
Yeah. What was that, the 6,000?
So that's what I'm saying.
That'd be out of material supplies.
Material for the William Street sidewalks. So
But-
the year before was all the downtown work, right? Remember?
Correct.
Okay, so last year we said we didn't have much, we'll budget this much, and we'll figure out what that number is. So, that's my question, we budgeted $6,000 last year to do William Street?
No, that's 6. I don't have the current financials. That still might be available. I
It
think
is available, we actually, the whole amount is available.
Okay, so how much you have left on material supplies?
Because here's the 15 for Saxon River, I was going from memory, but there it is.
Not much. That we've used $8,929 for material supply this year for sidewalks.
Okay, so that's what I was talking about, is not really nothing left. It's
Where's that?
Spent it.
That's in the material supplies.
Use 8,900 what?
8,929,
In material?
material and supplies.
Where 9,000 was budgeted.
That's for the concrete for various sidewalks and utilities, that the town.
Right.
So there is still 6,000 available, that might be enough to do this section.
So,
of the,
That's in a different line item.
So last year, we reduced the materials and supplies to do the summer of 19 sidewalk work, 600 feet by the town. And the contract services, the $6,000, we initially had $225,000 in, and we reduced it to the $6,000 to do the sidewalk contract work assistance for the 600 feet that we had the materials above for. And that's how we reduced the budget to $300,000.
I remember that discussion. Because I know we quizzed you about if you're gonna be able to do it for $6,000, that, we beat that one up pretty bad when you mentioned that number, so.
So the 50,000 will do, as a contract out, it will either do 800 feet if it's a standalone sidewalk, no curbing, or 400 feet if it's a curbing and sidewalk. This is 5 foot wide, so it just gives you a ballpark idea.
How much?
400 feet with a curb.
How many dollars?
Dollars per foot, you mean?
No, what, you said?
Oh, 50,000, for $50,000.
No way.
With a curb, you're talking 400 feet, and with the, no curb, about 800 feet. These are just ballpark based on numbers, you know, using SER basins, V-Trans 2-year average cost estimates, and
So the actual at FY19 was 187,803, right? Or am I reading?
yep,
No, correct.
That was a lot
No,
of
no.
feet.
a lot,
It was a lot more than 800. It was a lot more than
yeah, it was
1,000
more
feet.
than, not a lot more, but it was
Oh, it was
expensive.
all Michael D's? I mean, how long?
Yeah, but it was a real wide sidewalk too. And you had pedestrian, so there's.
No, I'm agreeing with that. I think that's a good price, but for you to just say it was 50 grand for 400 feet?
Yeah, 50 grand, 400 feet with a curb, or roughly 800 feet, no curb, just replace the sidewalk. Gives you a number. So to correct myself, yes, we do have 6,000 available for the spring in Gulf Falls if you want to do, Wendy Nygaard talked and Mike do, a section up here by, 7-Eleven over here by Canal Houses.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
That needs it, but we've got to work together with them. We've already talked to them, for us to do it right, it's gonna change the back of our sidewalk, which changes everything they've got. So it's, we were ready to do it this fall, but they weren't ready. So and they may not be ready in spring. Then there's always that section by the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, I forgot about Canal House.
Yeah, so it was, the 7-Eleven section between Green and 7-Eleven would be, that's a simple section. That's when you're talking,
No curb.
you know, the cheaper price per foot.
Okay, anything else?
Okay, so Everett has the sidewalk cost information from 4 different sources. Did you hand that out yet?
No, I thought you were gonna email it to them.
I'm sorry?
I thought you were gonna email it to them for next week.
Oh, okay, well, we
The
can.
road stuff, that actually exactly what we're gonna pay for roads, that's what I said.
That's what you handed, okay. So, we can email it and give you a hard copy, but, let's make sure, I'll email it first thing.
You don't mind me email, and this is gonna be emailed too. This is the roads, what we're doing.
Okay, or just leave me that and I'll get you a copy before you go if you want one tonight, a paper copy.
I would like to pick up. What is it?
As far as exactly what we're,
Contract out.
right, the 400,000, this breaks out what's gonna happen for the 400,000.
So, but you don't have those sidewalk
No.
pages right there
I
with
didn't get
you?
ready for that, I couldn't make copies.
Oh, okay, yeah, are these,
Yeah,
Just make sure they didn't.
yeah, just, yeah, sorry to be disorganized, but I want to get you guys this as soon as you can, as soon as we can, so that you have the next meeting. So the next meeting, we would talk.
What is?
No, that's not.
What?
Something else, that's not a problem.
Oh, yeah, okay. So it's the sidewalk numbers that you talked about, it's the paving to do next year, and actually 2 pages of sidewalk, so it's 3 pages, right, Everett?
3 pages total.
Okay.
It's like the comparison of a contract job to ours by square foot.
So a minute ago, we seemed to be confused about material and then time and material. So this is an accurate time and material
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
spreadsheet you're giving us?
we were confused about which line item things came from, but what he's giving you is the amount that it actually costs, plus the V-Trans estimate, so that we know what to expect in cost. Yeah, and it's
Right.
actually pretty interesting information.
So, yeah, cost per square yard of the SUR project on Burke Lake and Park. Our project on William Street, Basin's project on Cherry Hill, and just an average price of V-Trans. If you look at, if you just type in the website, V-Trans 2-year cost estimate, that would pop up. It's probably, they keep a running tabulation of probably a couple hundred items, you know, curbing, paving stuff, that varies a lot, but all kinds of items, you know, concrete in place, you know.
So what part of the sidewalks did you give us numbers from the town? Like prep?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep, all of it. This is, what I got prepared is everything but the excavations. Only because everybody else, for example, Basin's, when they did their sidewalk, the road and everything, that sidewalk number was not, you know, when they're gonna do their excavation, they're pulling everything out from edge to edge. So it wasn't easy to put that in there. And when we excavated that, it wasn't part of the work. We pulled the sidewalk, we excavated the road. And so it's not easy to add that number and how much did it cost to pull that little bit of sidewalk when we were pulling the whole road. SUR, I think their numbers, they're the lowest. Their number included pulling it out of there. But so it's not easy. Every contract's different, so it's not easy to pull all those numbers and have it exact. And that V-Trans numbers has it. There's different ways of looking at that. They've got the, for example, curbing price, they've got the sidewalk price, it's by square yard. And then width varies too, anywhere from 5 inches for the state of Vermont, we use 6 inches. Some people use 8, so they have an 8-inch number.
Yeah, so once you guys have a chance to look at the numbers, then we can talk about it. All
No,
that.
it's 5, I think. No, it might be 5 or 6.
different mix, 4,000 pound mix.
Okay, 4,000 PSI, right, exterior versus, but thickness, I'm talking about thickness. Thickness was 6, we do 6 inches. I think that was 6, I believe.
Right, okay. So, for the next highway discussion, we'll talk about sidewalk, as long as we want, capital improvement, stormwater utility, and potential other revenue. Does that sound good? And then, and obviously anything else you want to talk about on highway. So, we talked about having the next budget meeting, not the regular select board, either this coming Saturday or this coming Tuesday.
Tuesday is the regular village trustee meeting, but they only have one a month,
So-
so it's open if we want to do it on a Tuesday.
And this meeting would just be
Time
about
to
budget.
look all those
Yeah.
numbers over and figure out what they don't want to do.
Tuesday, in the evening, it would be recorded because I think it's helpful for people to have a camera. And I don't know, Saturday, I mean, it would be right
I
by.
probably suggest
Yeah.
when you do it on Tuesday. Plus
Yeah.
it gives us extra time to look these numbers over and all the pages we've got
Yeah.
and figure out what, if anything, we want to do with them.
Okay, so everybody good for Tuesday, 6 o'clock, and it'll just be budget?
Yeah, that's it. No.
Okay, cool.
Would you rather do Tuesday or Saturday?
I'd rather do Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm seeing everybody. Stefan, I think you're
Tuesday.
you good? Okay. Tuesday, you head to this building anyway, right? Okay, great. So then shall we go to the next agenda item?
Yep, let's get that going to
Before
Shannon's office.
people
Finance
leave though,
office.
can I just ask one thing? Or it's sort of other business, but Lower Bartonsville Railroad, I know Mike is banging his head over that, but it is high and it's frozen. And if we get more rain, Lower Bartonsville Road is gonna flood because that beaver is.
I called them.
Yeah?
I called them and called them.
And they're ignoring you like you.
Yes,
They don't care.
I called them when the water was way down, I said, now's an opportune time to get in there and do something, and nothing.
Yeah, because it's pretty high, right?
I know it is. Yeah,
Well,
it's-
should we call a
it's-
state rep or something?
It's
I mean,
bad.
they're
I mean,
willing to help.
I can give Mark Pickering a call for what it's worth, or Megan.
So, yeah, state of Vermont owns the rail.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, yes, it's ridiculous. It's,
Yeah, they
they
hired
have to
some,
fight
they
this
hired
out.
some outfit way out of Winooski to come down and clean it, which doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I've called everybody I know.
Yeah, I know you have, I
Yeah.
know you have, yeah, so thank you for that.
Okay, let's get on to Shannon there. Before midnight.
I didn't realize budget meetings were so long. How many more do you have to do?
Excuse me.
Get to do
Well,
probably
this is
3
just
or
our
4.
This is just our first run. We haven't started yet.
This was just the first run through.
Yeah, we haven't gotten cut for it.
Yeah.
The fun starts from now on.
Yeah.
But you get to come, they're all free, so feel free
Oh,
to.
wow.
Okay, Shannon, you're on. Let's get rolling here.
Okay, so we're halfway through November, and that's what these financials indicate. And so I went through anything that seemed like you might have questions on it, and I listed them in my memo, but were there any additional, anything that I didn't mention? I expect to either be on target or exceed in revenue, or be on target or come in under for expenses.
Page 14. Street signs.
Yeah, near the bottom.
14.
About 2/3 of the way down the page.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, we're over.
So,
I just didn't know if there was, what,
so we made street signs for the Burke Lake project, and we moved about $2,000 worth of the street sign costs out of street signs and into the project. But it's so hit or miss. Some years we replace one street sign, and then some years 10 are stolen.
Right, this was actually a really good opportunity because the signs had to be purchased for the Burke Lake project, that's what you're talking about.
But I moved the cost of those out.
Okay, but then we ended up being able to use them after the project. So instead of it being a situation where we paid for the signs and then they belong to the contractor, we paid for the signs and then they belong to us. So this was, and I think those are those signs, or some of them.
There's no longer any cost for that in that number. I made an entry to move it out
Okay,
so
But-
these are other street
so
signs.
these are other street signs.
that have
Okay.
needed to be replaced.
So I think, and I know we put the lights, and Mike is still here, he can speak to
Which,
it.
what?
The red lights on top of
More
the stop signs.
Street signs that needs to be replaced? You just said we didn't need to buy any more.
No, that was, those were the detour signs that I was talking about, the project detour signs.
Didn't we recently get all the street signs replaced by the state of Vermont?
Oh, no.
No, and it depends on which signs they are that we need to
They
replace.
came and replaced everyone in this village, right?
I know.
They weren't even bad, they replaced them.
Well, I thought the town did that as far as the compliance with the size, better.
It was 4
Yeah,
or 5 years ago.
yeah, I believe that was, but I don't believe the state of Vermont did it. I believe the town.
Oh, they did.
I don't know, we'll
I
find
think we would
out.
have paid, we shouldn't have paid to replace perfectly fine street signs.
So it was a requirement for a certain size.
It was a state thing. State
All
thing.
these are like if people steal a stop sign.
that's why I was curious if like all these were stolen.
So
This
not
year,
all
or-
of them, but I can speak that some of them were
Oh,
street
sure.
signs, stop signs, and so,
Damaged, shot.
yeah, shot,
I know,
unreadable.
what about, and those red blinking lights on
I
top of
can't
the
speak
stop
to
signs?
that.
I'm pretty sure those are, because that was definitely this year.
Alright.
I'm pretty sure those are in there, and that wasn't planned. Those are legal.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So that might be something we want to look at for this budget season, although hopefully we don't have another year like that.
Yeah.
Or if you do, maybe find a way to purchase half of what you need that year.
Right, if there's budget, if there's items
Don't have
left
the
over
money
in
for
the
it.
budget, make a purchase or pay in advance on our account or something. We did get the rebate for the lights. I don't know if you guys remember approving a purchase for the lights for the garage, but we received the rebate, so the cost was really insignificant to us, so you will see that in the set of financials, I think. That's now negative. The materials and supplies for the highway administration, the refund was $8,080 that we got back.
Great.
Do you guys want to go into comp and overtime?
Nothing that affected us, right?
There really wasn't. The biggest thing
Did a
would
pretty good explanation as well.
yeah, it would have been the highway supervisor's earned comp because he had 40 hours, but his bank's already full, so he did not earn 1 hour of that.
Okay, anybody else set? Go to balance reserve fund.
Yeah, is that, this is good for the
So these are the balance of the highway and general funds were provided to you at the end of last fiscal year, and so far, nothing else has changed.
We're on the reserve funds now, right? 4C.
So the contract service sidewalks, that 190, this is with Cherry Hill, correct? A lot of that, because that had been in the reserve fund for years until
Yeah.
we got that, so that's
correct.
That's Cherry Hill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay. So item 5 is the Attorney General's opt-out of the opioid legislation.
Opt-out. That's it? Says,
I know, not,
Do not opt out.
Right, it's a double negative, but that's how they're phrasing it. Did you want me to explain it?
well, we had the letter last time you came around.
Right.
Another copy in your hands, I don't know if
So we have to officially not opt out?
No, you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything
If you want to
go along
opt
with it.
out, you have to
You have
take
to send in, right.
action before, I believe it's the 22nd.
is
But-
there a, sorry,
No, sorry.
is there a concern, I think I read an article about like a local pharmacy being
That's
being
different issue.
impacted, not a big chain, but our local, would that be a concern?
I don't believe so here. In Brattleboro, what they're talking about is not only not opting out, but also having their own litigation, their own lawsuit, and targeting
So taking the
local
states
pharmacies.
and their own,
Correct.
But-
So it was the addition part that pharmacist was objecting to. The only objection or reason that I've heard about for folks not opting, or for folks opting out, is that it was a little bit of money and not worth the effort. But there's really no effort. I mean,
And we're not gonna pay lawyers to
No.
try to get more. Okay.
No, this is just, we may get something, and one estimate I saw was $2.47 per resident,
Right.
so it wouldn't be, you know, it sounds
Not a
good,
lot,
but yeah.
What's that
Organization
impact?
is-
So-
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not here to advocate for that.
So the staff recommends that we not opt out, so that you take no action on this.
Okay, all set? Agenda items for the next meeting, December 3.
We'll have health insurance. So the actual next meeting
Yeah.
is going to be
No.
Tuesday, and that'll just be the budget.
Okay.
But the next regular meeting is going to
Next
be
regular meeting is
December 3rd.
Right.
And I've had, oh yeah, so, it'll probably be more budget. Maybe the old Arch Bridge, the Vilas Bridge, because, following the discussion from Walpole, we didn't really decide on one specific action. I mean, it was a good conversation.
Other than the George Mutter, basically.
Yeah, so we could bring that letter, and then, with the old Arch Bridge, you do need to, at some point, approve a maintenance agreement, and that came before you once before, remember, and we postponed that until we had more information and met with Walpole, and I think the only decision is whether you wanna pay for the lights. Right now, we just have one light, but at one point you thought about maybe paying for 2 of 4. So that could be on the agenda, and then health insurance.
Okay, joint board agenda, anything? Not yet?
No, but we still
January.
need to find a date.
It's gonna be in January, because nobody wants to do it on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I already
So,
changed it from December 31st to January blank. So
Okay.
we just have to come up with a
Let's
date.
go to review and approve orders, bills, and warrants, and motion, please. Second. Motion's been made and seconded, any discussion?
Yeah, I have one thing.
Yep.
The recycling center cashier shack that we had painted.
Oh,
The second section here.
right.
Why didn't our building maintenance person do that?
Yeah, I heard that. It was, he didn't have time, is the only answer that I've heard. And I need to follow up on that, because that's not a great answer.
No, because it wouldn't take very long to do that.
Yeah. And how necessary was it to paint it too?
Well, I'm okay with it getting painted, but I mean, it's not that big.
Yeah.
Take very long.
Yeah. Well, but it should have been something that waited. Yeah, I can get back to you guys on that.
So can I ask a question? Are you not in charge of that? Like you said, that's what you've been told, so someone else told someone the same?
Yeah, the department heads have authority to spend up to certain amounts of money, and yeah, they do not ask me for everything that they do.
I understand, but then
And that's less than 500, it was 400 something, right?
Or 75, I think.
it's $475, and I
Yeah.
think many of us here feel we don't understand that.
All I can offer is that I did see him, Gary, talking to the painter before this went down, and I had no clue what he was talking about.
But I think we have a full-time maintenance.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying, that's all I know.
That
how
we
this
approved
came
and
about.
funded for things like this, and
And then
then
when
we're
you
paying
mentioned that,
additional money.
It just struck me that's probably what they were talking about was painting the building. I didn't know.
Yeah, and so I didn't know that Gary was planning on doing that, but he does, he operates independently within his budget. He can't go over his budget, and he can't go over certain amounts without approval. But yeah, I mean, he does, he calls for services and has materials taken away and schedules people. He operates independently, but within his authority. So I can find out more about that one.
Anything else? Okay, motion's made and seconded. All those in favor of the warrants approving, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay. Other business, Sue,
Nope, almost.
Stefan? Tom?
None.
Ben? Okay, at the village meeting, Chuck and Wendy and I discussed this, wanted to use town budget money to do the asbestos situation on the YMCA down there, which could complicate matters if a lien's placed. We may not be able to get paid back to town funds if it's a village issue. So I think Wendy's gonna be checking into that. He wanted to use town budget, out of his budget, to pay for them to do an inspection for asbestos at the Y in the demolition process. If it's all included in the demo job that the village is gonna undertake, if they take it, then they can put the lien on it, and any money they can recoup will then get recouped. But if it's two different sources of funds, I've been told that you may not get paid back for whatever the town spends.
How much is it?
I don't know, that's why I was asking, I don't know if he's even looked into it or what.
I think a figure that was mentioned at the trustees meeting could be $1,000.
Yeah, I was thinking 700 in that range.
So I know that I've got one of the Saxon Fire Department that range from $900 to $1,200. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a little bit,
And that was just to inspect, but if they find anything, then the price goes up. The community visit funds, the dinner, I don't know where we're gonna find the funds for that. I know that the board didn't approve any spending for that. We did at the community visit meeting. the two of us that were there.
right. Well,
So I mean, I'm just bringing that up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people these people weren't there.
right, well, when this board requested that the visit happen, the two obligations were to do a mailing, so we
Yeah.
sent this flyer to everybody, basically, today it went out, just so that you guys know, and provide the dinner. And I can talk to, Deb, right, is
She was organizing.
organizing the dinner, so she should know how much.
Yeah, I just throwing that out.
Yeah, no, it's-
The other thing, Mr. 2 to 6, 2 to 4 Atkinson Street is now moved to Saxon River Main Street.
Yeah,
I
2 to
think-
4 is looking good.
I think we need a letter to him to remind him that he can't start spreading stuff down that public right of way and on the sidewalk in Saxon River.
Sure.
And also the owner, Mr.
The owner should, yeah.
should get a letter that, just because he's out there, he doesn't escape the zoning regulations and that lawyer's issue that he's under now currently that he can't. I'm just making that as an issue.
Right, well, luckily it's a very big building, so
It
hopefully.
should have plenty of room inside, but I noticed there's a few items that are starting to accumulate outside when I come by, so.
Okay.
It just, especially with that sidewalk going down where the kids get off the bus and anybody cuts up to the market. That's a town right away there, and you shouldn't be blocking that.
Yeah.
I just
Right.
Just an
I think the
advisory
zoning
to
issues
him.
are different, but yes.
Just advisory.
There Jersey barriers on there still?
What's that?
Jersey barriers at the
Well,
top?
there's a couple of them on top of there, so they can't drive down the street, but people walk down there and then walk up from down there, so the street's blocked. You know, the other side, Bucky's paved that for his own purpose, so he can plow it, but if he wants to put it over there, that's up to Bucky, but. Yeah.
The elevator, do we have an update? I'm sorry to ask you at the last minute, but.
No, it's all right. We have the Lula, I'm sure you're talking about. We did authorize the service, finally. The parts are ordered. Do you know?
Because last time it was the parts, last time I asked, 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Shannon was gonna find out if they would order the part.
What happened was most of the whole story, they thought that a certain board would fix it. They changed that board, that didn't fix it. Now there's a board that controls the doors, right? So then we had to figure out whether we were gonna replace the board or just update the board. And replacing the board made more sense. So now they're ordering a replacement board for the doors. But do we have an idea?
So the board was ordered, it's in, and
They're just waiting for Jen to schedule the date for them to come out and replace it.
So you can give them a call tomorrow, we'll see it. So hopefully next week we might be able to have the meetings downstairs.
And then the library is out for a significant period of time? Library, elevator?
I don't know that.
Their elevator is,
It's not functional.
they were trying to
Folks are
contact Bay
upset.
State for service as well.
Hmm?
They were contacting Bay State for service.
That's what I heard, and it was gonna be some time before it was fixed. So I would, when we discuss this, we get told that Bay State knows the elevators and we've worked with them forever. But I think perhaps we should reach out to another company, because we do that often these days. Put
Oh, yeah.
RFPs for things that we might save some.
Totally.
Because this elevator hasn't worked for a long, long time, and now that one apparently is not gonna work for a long time.
So the other thing is, how does that affect our ADA ability down there in the
It
library?
affects
Well,
it.
they know how, they have to schedule things in different rooms and not
I know,
use
I'm just
the.
saying, I mean, before there's somebody raises that issue.
Oh, yeah, no, we gotta get it done. Yeah, we've had situations here where both elevators aren't working. It's horrible.
That was it, I just wanted to ask. And then-
We have talked about working with another company.
Well, how are we so sure that, or not so sure on this one, that if the board didn't do it the first time, the board won't do it the second time?
It's a different board. I
Well, I
know,
realize that.
and what's next? I know. It's really frustrating.
Well, I'd be
So
contacting.
aren't they doing regular maintenance and performing
Yeah,
maintenance
yeah.
and tests and
And then
stocking
there's,
these parts for that elevator? And
well, the Lula might be not stocked. I mean, the other elevators
I'll bet
are
someone
normal
does.
elevators.
But don't we have some type of maintenance agreement with them where it costs us some money?
I don't, not with the Lula.
I don't
I think they
know.
just they do maintain
They
it.
do maintenance on it and they come out and maintain it, but mostly it's just like greasing the doors and like basic maintenance stuff.
But what do we pay for that?
It's covered under the warranty, I believe, for maintenance.
On the Lula, it's still under warranty?
I don't believe it is a
Not the
warranty.
Lula, the big one.
Yeah, the
main
big one
elevator
would have
covered
maintenance
under
agreement on, the regular one. The Lula is old and we've evidently been storing it the wrong way. The way that we're leaving it, or we did, we changed
Yeah.
what we do, but the way that we were leaving it in place was putting pressure on parts of it. So it's just accumulation over years and it's very slow, as you know. It probably should have just been one elevator when it was first built. So some have speculated that the reason we have two elevators is people didn't want to do a pit at that point, I don't know. But we're left with what we
As
have.
far as I can recall, there was a matter of the funding, number one, and number two, I think they said they ran into some ledger, something in there that they just said, well, we're not gonna go down beyond that, we're gonna put the other one.
Yeah, so then we
That's
end
what
up
I
with, so
understand.
this is the consequences, so.
And I don't know who put that rule in, like, I can ask
Well-
my wife, she might know,
But it is what it is, I mean, we're just trying to solve the problem.
And then lastly, is the Waypoint Center, how's that building doing?
I don't know.
As far as
You mean as far as, well, the
The
heat
heat.
is probably not back, or, I mean, we have temporary heat, but the propane pipe was gonna get fixed the end of this month, or like this coming week, I think it was.
that we have.
So I can check on it.
We're not having any problems with freezing pipes running down.
No, because we have other
Temporary.
heat
Okay,
there
well, just-
to keep.
And in general, that building, like, is secure and.
Oh, we had a
Well,
meeting
after
there,
the
didn't we?
break-in, it's, yeah.
How's
and
it? It's
I
a
haven't
nice
been there
building
since I
and it's
got back,
expensive
so.
and then.
Oh, I know,
There's no heat.
well, we need to use it more, we need to have, 24, or not 24 hours.
I agree with that, but we
5
also
days.
need to maintain it and.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Where do we stand with tax sales, especially the RFP for the title searchers? I haven't seen that in.
Right, that has to be after, I mean, we're doing that to save money, we're doing it in-house except for the, title searches. So we need to finish the budget first.
So I thought we had looked at tax sale in September.
Oh, we did, but we've had a number of things come up, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So, it's just workload, but we're running as fast as we can. So it's the tax, we have budget, and then I'm trying to remember, there's one other major thing that's going on, financially. I mean, we have to do the end of the year. We have to finish up FY '19, there's still adjustments that need to be made there.
I've gone down to the waypoint, actually, I met somebody down there, we were checking on a couple of trains there. Did we remove a bench or something down there?
I don't know.
Because it looks like there might be something missing down
Clerk can check.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motions, you only have one.
Only need one.
Oh, second. I thought you were looking for one.
All those in favor would say aye before Sue falls asleep over there. All right, we're done.
All right, so we'll see you next Tuesday.
Tuesday, 6